Oh, think we're live now. Maybe. Hold, please. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the impromptu thing that doesn't want to work today, but hi. I'm Steve from Mac84, and we're going to be joined by a very special guest, Mr. Kai Robinson. There he is. Hopefully he can see and hear us.
I had to hit F5 again.
Yay! Oh, boy. So we've had a few technical problems, but what else is new? But welcome to OpenTalk episode 9. Our guest, of course, here is Kai Robinson. And apologies for some of the issues we were having. I unchecked a box in YouTube that I thought was a trivial thing. Apparently it's not. So that don't push the buttons, I guess.
Nothing is trivial to the algorithm.
Nothing is trivial. Yeah. So YouTube just has this auto start thing where if you enable it, as soon as your streaming software starts sending data, it will start the stream automatically. Well, I turned that off. Now that the toggle's actually there. For a while it wasn't. I turned that off so I could, actually prepare myself, make sure, I'm actually ready to go live before I click the button. And yeah, apparently that broke StreamYard. So don't do that again, Stephen. But anyway, we are blessed here by our good friend Kai Robinson. Now, the last time, Kai, you joined us way back in OpenTalk episode 5 that I had here on the show.
Just about a year ago, yeah.
Yeah, so that was just about a year ago. And when we were on that show and talking about things, that was April 18th. So, my goodness, tomorrow would have been the anniversary. That's a little scary. But when you were on, you talked about a number of things, including your Macintosh SE Reloaded project and such. So first off, I'd like you to give yourself a proper introduction. Tell the people who you are, why you are, what you are, and
do you know what? I've had this before. People coming up with the why is. We had that before in TinkerDifferent.
Exactly.
We've been puzzled.
That's where I got it from.
But by day I am mild-mannered IT supporter. By night I am uber nerd and electronics freak, and I come up with all sorts of crazy ideas, and I turn a lot of the "what if you could" into reality. Apparently, at least in two instances, with the recreation of the Macintosh SE Reloaded and the Macintosh Classic Reloaded, along with the RAM expansion for the Macintosh Classic, which can also be used with a non-reloaded board as well. So the recreation there. As well. Also, I will shortly be the purveyor of a few other things through a Tindy store as well. I'll actually be selling direct to the public for the first time. So,
well, that's exciting.
It's worrying. That's what. Do I have any inventory? Also, hello, Joe.
Yeah, so we have quite a few people in the chat here. It would be rude of me to ignore all of them. One Bit Fever Dreams is here. Eric is here. Victor Christian of Macintosh Garden is here, of course. Who else? We have Andrew. We have Retrotech. We have Sean of Action Retro. We have some guy named Kai Robinson. I don't know about that guy. We'll ignore him. He's probably a troublemaker. Francois is here. ALX Lab is here. Joe is here. Jack is here. Dave is here. Let's see who else. Geeky Bit. Another Joe, it looks like. Garth is here. LOL Broke is I am terrible at pronouncing these names. I apologize. Dude Fan 20 is here. Le Dude de YouTube is here. Big Bad Biologist, Big Bad Bench. I'll just call you 6B for short. Wayne is here, and Christian is here, and All Things DG is here. Okay, I think I caught up on the majority of the fine folks that joined us today. But thank you for giving yourself an introduction there, Kai, because you've been so busy working on so many things that it would have been foolish of me to try and remember them all, because obviously you sent me some goodies. I purchased one of the SE Reloaded boards from Kai, and he sent me the classic board that he was working on. But it was before him and Bruce bashed their brains together and figured out all the kinks. So mine is a very rare non-working model.
You can use that as wall art. Let's face it. I've actually got a parcel that is ready to ship out to you, as previously kind of discussed privately. Yep. I've got a parcel with like an SE30 Reloaded board from Bowl in it for you. I've got a classic Reloaded board. I've got the classic Reloaded RAM expansion in there. I've got a whole bunch of sim sockets and all the rest of it. So yeah, you've got more goodies on the way, and don't worry, these ones work.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to Bruce and yourself for. I know you were up at silly hours watching Bruce's stream, just trying to you're on the edge of your seat, seeing if what he did was going to fix it, because that was the first one that was being put together. So that was exciting.
Yeah, that one was the black and gold PCB.
Yeah,
that's Lou there. Say hello. Say hello.
Hello. Thank you for giving up his time.
He said, "Thank you for giving up my time."
Cool.
So yeah, no, with that particular instance, with getting the classic Reloaded to work, obviously the first batch, including the first board that I sent you, there were faults on that one, and rather than try and patch them all, it was a case of right, let's patch a whole bunch more, and we'll see how that one goes. We've now come to the production version, version 1.2. Because of all the stuff that Bruce was kind of working out, and it was literally I was hanging in there, one eye open, falling asleep on the couch in a rented cottage on a holiday on an island where my internet was on 4G tethered, and I'm like, no, have you tried this particular? I'm good.
And even in that state, you're mentioning these convoluted things. Well, the serial controller talks to this and then talks to that.
Yeah.
And if I was you, I'd be I'd just be brain dead at that point. I couldn't even think. But you were so in tune.
I got 4 hours of sleep, and then I was up at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, I'm up. Let's go out. Let's have a whole day out. Sort of eye twitching. Yeah, just.
More coffee.
Yes. Oh God, yeah. And that wasn't the only one either. Just I mean, even just without stuff that I'm involved in, just on Bruce's live streams, they're so hilarious to kind of participate in and fun. Because I'm like, hey Bruce, have you tried this? And I'm frantically trying to ping him and notify him, fine, I'll send you a super chat. Try this one.
That's funny, because you mentioned a very important thing, because for us right now, we're doing a live stream. We have about 30 people watching or so, and the chat is at a good pace right now. It's flowing, but sometimes and it sneaks up on you, because you get no notification of how many people are watching until you actually look at the screen. There's no ping, or at least in the software I use, there's nothing to say, hey, 50 people are watching. So sometimes the chat will just be going by and the thing that you're very important that you wanted to read is just
buried.
It's buried, and you have to scroll, and who's going to do that? But so I just remember, obviously our time zones are a bit different, and you would be commenting that you're, I'm going to go to sleep, and an hour later you're still there. An hour later after that you're still there.
But yeah, that was very much a case of just kind of I will go to bed, and just as I'm about to close the lid, I hear him say something, and I'm like, nope, no, back into it. I just slap myself around the face, put my glasses back on the end of my nose. Oh yes, I think I still have vision here. There's somewhere in front of me.
Partial vision.
Partial vision. Yeah. It's just it's too addictive. It's when you're like, yeah, I can't do the whole thing of like, oh, he'll figure it out. It's a case of like, oh, I know what it is.
Yeah,
but,
it's your baby too. It's like your project. Like
even when it's not my project, I'm still like, this can be fixed. I know how.
Yeah, it's and I get a lot of times my significant other will say, I don't need it fixed right now. Like you could let it go for a while, and I'm like,
it's okay. It can wait.
But it needs fixing. So we did all this chatting about on the previous stream last year, and a lot of things have changed since then. So you were actually previously hosting the project on another site, which went mostly bye-bye. So TinkerDifferent is now there. And so that was obviously Kai and myself have been involved in the founding of that particular awesome website, TinkerDifferent.com. And so you have a few lovely projects that are hosted there. I'm going to bring one up in a second. Mm-hmm. But is that where people can really keep tabs on what you're working on, or is the Phoenix Engineering website still your go-to?
So I think for ease of use for the moment, so the Phoenix Engineering stuff has been parked for now. A large part of that hinged on plans last year, and everything kind of snowballed from the whole kind of the crash of the other place. And I basically just quit electronics for a while. For a good 3 months, I did nothing. I literally did nothing. Didn't update any projects or anything like that. And the kind of it's the site is still there, and I think had TinkerDifferent not come along, I would have been posting there more. But actually, TinkerDifferent I think works better, and now that I feel confident that stuff that I post isn't just going to up and disappear on a whim, it's either there or GitHub. So GitHub's the definitive. That's where all the project files are typically hosted.
Great. Well, I'm just happy that there's a place where it's going to stay, and it's going to live, and you could comment on it. You could go and say, oh, we'll give a suggestion or whatever. But here's TinkerDifferent here. We're under the lab section under hardware, and this is a post, a thread rather, of the logic board for the Macintosh Classic Reloaded project. And just look at that, just a beautiful image. Just I don't even want a physical one. I just want to look at it. Yeah, it's pretty.
To be fair, sprint layout in the kind of preview does give you a very nice image, and you could also change the color of the solder mask as well. So if you want, you can kind of export that. If you want to make like an A2 size version, stick it on your wall. Go ahead. There's no copyright on the images. Or a mouse mat. Actually, Alex does a very good mouse mat.
Oh, that's a good item to. We have to find a place that makes good quality mouse pads. Yeah.
I may know of one or two.
Kai's like seeing dollar signs now. All my research can be funded. Just got to sell 1 million mouse pads.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean the biggest change since the Macintosh SE Reloaded project was finished has been the fact that the board design is now licensed for commercial production through Mac Effects.
Oh, great!
There are a few other people who have a license and have the files, but it's up to them as and when they want to put them up on their stores. I won't mention who they are just yet in case they get bombarded. They get the internet hug of death. So Mac Effects is now in control of selling them, at least in the North American market, and that is the finished revision.
Here's the SE Reloaded board on MacEffects.com. So that's there, and your name is of course mentioned. And 100% of the proceeds, less selling costs, will go directly to Kai Robinson. There you go.
So. Yeah. So I mean, I even feel bad about that. It's like I won't go too much into the details, but basically, all I asked for in terms of what I wanted out of it was just to be able to kind of recoup the costs of the project.
Of course.
Up to that point. So things like board runs or stuff from UT source or whatever. If I could cover even just a portion of that, I would have been happy for it.
And that's no small feat. I mean, people, it's very hard to not understand that if you're not into doing this stuff. But explain a little bit. You had to source obviously chips that were no longer made. You had to find recreations or other parts that could be repurposed. You had to do a lot of lifting, and you talked a little bit about this last time we spoke, but Talk briefly about some of the chips, maybe not all of them, because I know there are a lot, but talk briefly about some of the challenges with either sourcing some of the chips or some of the creative ways you worked with others to sort of get some replacements.
So again, a lot of stuff kind of came about after the last time that I was on stream with you. One thing that I did mention and touch upon was the glue chip, which is on the Macintosh SE, which is not there on the Classic. It's one of those funny things where they took an integrated chip that had a whole bunch of functions in it, and then threw that out the window and went back to discrete logic, because discrete logic at surface mount was smaller and easier to implement, especially seeing as in the Classic there was no provision or need for a second floppy drive like there is in the SE. So a whole bunch of functionality wasn't needed, so they didn't need the custom chip. So they went back to discrete logic. But that glue chip in the SE, it was what they call a programmable array logic, PAL chip. Essentially like a mask ROM version, like they're normally programmable, erasable. You can program them again, and as Joe says, it's a gate array, but it is a very simple gate array. And Apple did use these in the 128, 512 plus, etc. And then integrate a whole bunch of functions, on the SE onwards into custom ASIC stuff. So a large part of it was pinning down what does the glue do, what does it control, and what are the inputs and outputs that are needed to do that. I ended up actually creating an adapter to kind of read the contents of that chip as if it were a ROM, and then decoding it and then passing the binary files through a couple of different programs to kind of find out, if this input equals this and this equals that inverted, so on and so forth.
You make it sound so easy.
I'm kind of giving you like the Cliff Notes version. There were many evenings of me sitting here just blinking and staring for sometimes weeks at a time. And
if I stare at it hard enough, maybe it'll fix itself.
And you know what? It did, because then I realized that there is actually a lovely guy called John who runs, aka Porchy from Jam Arcade. And what he's known for is picking apart the PAL chips on arcade boards. So like Street Fighter arcade boards or Choplifter, those sorts of big, heavy individual CRT like arcade machines you get in a proper old school video arcade. He pulls those things apart just for fun, and he's good at it. So I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I've got this chip. I've got this equation map for it. I'm not entirely certain that this is what it is. Would you be able to have a look at it?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Posted it off to him. And less than 24 hours later, I get back, I've done it. There you go. And he's given me the full equation map for it.
Wow.
For a brand new ATF 16V8 PLD, which can be used as a one-to-one copy clone in place of the glue chip.
Yeah.
There we go. All of the glue functionality is there. And this was all verified by there is a book which is basically designing the Macintosh for machines up until I think about 1990 or so. It goes up to about the 2CI, 2FX kind of era, and it has in there sort of like block diagrams of what stuff does.
Oh, okay.
And in the SE, it was showing it. Oh, hang on, what's it doing there? There's a tiny little logic gate in there. What's that doing? And then you realize, hang on, that's a function of the glue. And then you look a little bit closer and you see that, so SCSI DMA, that's being done by the glue as well. Oh, and the floppy control, that's being done by that. Oh, and it's buffering the clocks. There we go. And then you don't actually need, obviously, having the equation map is great, but also that's allowed me to also work out a complete discrete logic recreation of the glue chip. So you don't even have to program a chip. You can just have the hardware for it using VQFN parts in a DIP carrier. So it's the same outline as the chip, but the chips themselves are the size of half of a grain of rice instead. Don't worry, I'm not expecting anyone else to assemble this at home. This will be done by a machine, for example. But
wow, but that is just to me hearing that, like, that is an accomplishment in itself of just that. And you had to reach that mark with a lot of different puzzles for recreating this, of either chips not being sourceable anymore, or I think you were saying there was another chip that you thought it was very custom, and it just turned out, oh, that's just a such and such, you know?
Yeah, that was the VIA chip. So in previous Macs, it was the 65C22N, which is still manufactured by Western the Western Design Center, WDC. It's still sold on Nowser, cool. still sold on DigiKey. Whereas when it comes to the SE, they were like, oh, no, it's a custom version made just for us. It's not custom. It's just got an Apple logo on it and a different part number. Pinout, identical. Function, identical. Look at the die under a scanning electron microscope. It's identical.
Wow.
And also,
that stuff is like so cool to find out, because now that information is there. And yes. So 10, 20, 30 years from now, somebody's going to be like, oh, I need to do the function of the, oh, well, you could just use this.
Yeah, and actually a lot of things were helped along after the project had been completed with regards to sort of dissecting the chips by a brilliant guy called Johan Grip. He's been out there and done interviews with Bill Hurd, who worked at Commodore on the Commodore 128 as well. And one of the things that he does for fun is he has a metallurgical microscope, and he decaps chips, images them so that people can see exactly how those functions are laid out. So when it came to the BBU, for example, we took I think it was a working BBU as well, that was again decapped, put under the microscope, and then we got a really good, really clear image of it, to the point where I think it's a 151 megapixel image, so you can see down to the individual gate level, the individual transistor level of the gate of those chips.
Do you have a photo of it by chance? Or
I do. Hang on one second.
You don't have to bring it up now, but I'm trying to logically process that, and I'm sure a lot of other people watching would be like, "What the heck are they talking about?"
So I'm just trying to find in my scroll back.
Sure.
So because this is a long time. Well, I say a long time ago. So it's a year ago, basically. And so he's done. Yeah, he does this with a few other chips, and I have sent him a whole bunch of. I've seen other ones.
Some images, I think, from Silicon Insider and other folks who do similar things of this imaging, and it's amazingly beautiful, the clarity of this stuff. But so you're saying by removing the cap or the lid from it and imaging it in this way, you could actually decipher in a better understanding and understand what the heck is going on with some of the logic that's inside of this, right?
Yeah, so I just posted the link there to the TinkerDifferent thread I posted up about this, and yeah, so the BBU for 1-bit fever dreams, the BBU is otherwise known as the Bob Bailey unit. It was the amalgamation of all of the individual PAL chips which were in the Macintosh Plus, 512 and 128K. So a lot of the functionality was sort of reduced into one single package, because things like trace length between gates and everything was reduced. It meant you could clock it faster. Because you could clock it faster, it also meant then you could do things in the V-blank interval. So while in between the horizontal line of refreshes, you were like, oh, I'm freeing up 25% of my CPU cycles to be able to work out video operations, which is why the SE was faster compared to the Plus. So
this is, I believe, Silicon Insider's image here. And then we have this one here.
Yeah, so this is the one big ass image.
Whoa!
Yeah, so
look at this.
So that was so that one there. That was the Brainstorm. So that was a 16 megahertz bus doubling BBU that was available for the SE back in the day, and this was the original one that Johan did of the original BBU. If you go to the bottommost corner of that,
on the right or the left,
I can't remember. Zoom out a bit more. So zoom out. And then look at the bottom, one of the bottom corners. It actually has. There we go. Right. So that bottom left-hand corner. Right.
That's cool.
So if you zoom into the bottom left-hand corner there, you will actually see, there we go, right, see Apple Computer. So that was the design for it. VTI, otherwise, which is now known as VLSI Technologies International. And then you see VGC 1900. That was the killer piece of information that we wanted to know. So that chip was originally infused in 1987, based around a design on the VGC 1900 series from 1986.
Wow.
That chip was part of a series of essentially, ASIC sort of building blocks that VLSI did. So you went to them with a design, VLSI would put it into their package, and funnily enough, Apple used the VGC 1900 for a lot of things, not just the SE, but the SE30, 2CI, new bus controllers, you name it. It was all infused using the same technology. I kind of dug up a VGC 1900 data book from VLSI.
Kind of.
How I came across that, we won't go into. But that data book there describes exactly what a particular gate looks like. So if you keep zooming in and zooming in and zooming in until you get to like a gate level in the middle, so a little bit further into the middle, you can see where all the interconnects are. And so that's the I/O to the outside world, and then there we go. So we get these sorts of gates here. You can see the horizontal and the vertical, so you can see which is that's the collector, that's the base, that's the emitter, that's that transistor. And you can see how they connect to everything else. All the building blocks are the same. It is literally just how they're interconnected. These days you do the same thing with an FPGA or a complex programmable logic device or something like that, which can rearrange the internal elements based on code. But this was essentially infused on the hardware level. And yes, this is a map from microscopic ants. Looking at this stuff made me feel like, wow, I'm in Tron.
You're on the grid. Yeah,
I'm on the grid. Yeah. So stuff like this has proven to be immensely helpful, and because you can actually now know what the pinout of that chip is. You know what the pinout is, and you can trace one particular signal as it goes through. Okay, so I want to find out where these data lines go. Oh, they go into here and they do this thing, and they fall out the other end, and stuff happens there. And I mean, already Zane Kaminsky on TinkerDifferent is like looking into doing a complete re-implementation of the BBU in an FPGA, but with the ability to address more than the memory map would allow, and using SD RAM, and let's make this thing work in space. That sort of level of lunacy that I can only kind of dream of being as good as.
Well, I mean, it's great that there's a post here on TinkerDifferent. Kai put the link in the chat there. But what's great is you could look at those images and read all about that procedure here, which is really cool. That is just so neat. So even if you don't understand it like me, your eyes are just glossed over. It's very pretty to look at, and it gives you a better understanding for some of the processes that were involved in. Because not only was your desire to recreate the logic board for, let's say, the SE and the Classic, but you wanted to better understand the functions of the chips and how you could either source a replacement for them, or how someone would cobble together some sort of replacement in the future. Because otherwise, it's great to have this board, but then there's only a finite amount of these chips that could be rescued from battery bomb boards, etc.
Yeah, and one of the nice things was as well is that other than the glue chip on the SE, you have the ADB, you have the sound, real-time clock, and the BBU. Luckily, on most SE boards, none of these chips, get harmed in any way. Occasionally, the sound chip might, because it's close to the battery, but everything else is mostly out of the way. But it was the theory of like, okay, well, depending on how it's been stored, these ones could end up getting drenched in battery gunk, and like, how would we replace those? So again, the ADB microcontroller, that was is a PIC 16 CR54 microcontroller with a mask ROM. And again, we shipped one of those off to Johan, who decapped it. And when he decapped it, he found the mask ROM area and also managed to pick out the contents of the mask ROM by reading it optically, what is a 1 and what is a 0, to make up a binary file.
Oh my god!
So, because if you've got the binary file for what's in the ROM, you can just flash that to any PIC 1654. It doesn't have to be a mask ROM revision. You can flash it to a 16F54 if you want, and then you've got the code for it. And then you're thinking like, oh well, maybe the SE was just an oddball and it was the odd one out. No, every single ADB microcontroller that says microchip on it means it's a PIC 16 CR54 based one, just on a PLCC package instead. So
that's fantastic. I mean, it's stuff like that which is going to be able to let people, with all the work that these fine folks do, yourself included, use these machines for years to come, because we have great projects that are like this project with the logic board. We have other projects where people are making video adapters for CRT replacements and stuff like that, and then power supply projects. And so the problem used to be, well, you need a physical old Mac. Well, now emulation's great. There are hardware solutions out there now, so you could pick your poison of how you want to dive into the vintage Mac community and spend all your time and money, because there's plenty of ways to do that now.
Yes, no, exactly. I mean, there's been a real explosion, certainly over the last 2 years. I think, actually, funnily enough, lockdown and COVID have really helped this, because people have been kind of sat on their home and go, well, I've got time to do stuff now.
Yeah.
But it's not just like one or two people. It's everyone has had time to do this. So there's been a massive explosion in people taking up the hobby or getting back into it, or thinking, all this is broken. All this thing I had, say, as a Macintosh Plus or Classic or whatever, that's broken in the meantime. Then they're like, oh, I want to get this working. How do I do that? And then they come up with ideas.
So I think Jack asked a good question here, and I think you have a thread on TinkerDifferent. I might be on the wrong one here.
No, that's the right one. That is the right one.
So essentially, the goal here, as Jack's question asks, is to try and document and make sort of a wiki or a post to sort of have all the marked chips identified. And so, is that what this thread is attempting to do?
Yeah, so the thread was mostly just a post originally of the link on Google Drive. So if you go to the Google Drive link, it probably explains it a little bit better. I mean, the image is nice. Yeah, the image is nice, but if you actually click on the Google Drive link, that is basically a list. So far, it's not exhaustive, it's not extensive. It's just the ones I've been able to do so far of certain chips used in, say, well, obviously I did this originally just to catalog what pins did what on, say, a Macintosh SE, and then I realized, oh, hang on, these are used on other ones as well. Oh, I might as well go down the road of just reverse engineering what the pinouts are for these pins as well. And then you go through the old Beaumark schematics, and you go, oh, okay, but he actually had a good idea of what these pins did and where they went and all the rest of it. So, like, let's put all the pinouts in one place. So, yeah, you can see there you've got pinouts for the RTC.
This is cool.
Yeah, whether it's in PLCC or DIP format, or whether it's the glue chip, or like the 530 603. There we go. That's the BBU 0062. So that is the SWIM floppy controller. 0061. That is, I think, the ASC. So they've got loads of these. You've got loads of these chips that have been used. And I'm working my way through, adding as many as possible and trying to figure out the pinouts for them, what the functions are, what's voltage, what's data, what's clock.
So if someone like you is very interested in this, but maybe they have some specialized knowledge and they want to contribute, would the TinkerDifferent thread be a good place to post and say, hey, I have some information or something like that?
Yeah, just post in the thread and say, hey, can I have edit access to the document? And sure, there you go. I'll add you as a contributor on there, and then you can create your own page in there and go through whatever chip you want to pop up there. It doesn't have to be anything that's listed on page 1 of the custom ASICs page. It can be something entirely different. Just add it later onto the list.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. We're all a bit of a data hoarder, but I think there's so many pieces to vintage machines. Even if you just narrow yourself down to the Macintosh, which was one of Apple's products. You know, you have the documentation that was shipped with the product. You have the engineering documentation. You have the sales documentation. You have the marketing documentation. Then you have the really technical stuff that was like locked away, you know, in some vault somewhere. And so it's really cool to decode this sort of stuff because let's face it, Apple, while they're going to protect their interests and stuff like that, they probably are not so concerned about the things that are 35 years old at this point. You know,
they generally leave off of the kind of like community created stuff for the old stuff because they're like, literally zero threat.
And the people who are super into that are usually the people who are buying their newer things. So they really don't want to step on that hand there.
Yeah, I mean,
sort of be like, hey, you can't do that. Now buy our thing.
For my job, I'm in control of usually spending around about $250,000 a year on Apple products and hardware. So play nice.
Yeah, move your chess pieces carefully, Apple.
Yeah, do not change the conditions of the deal, lest I change it further.
Yeah, I've altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. Yeah.
Yes.
So these projects has obviously taken up a considerable amount of your time and other folks' time, which have been very generous. And again, on behalf of the Macintosh community, thank you, because these are freaking amazing. And I just want to put that out there because a lot of people, it's very easy to just stumble upon a forum or a video and assume because of the way things are presented that this was done overnight or over a week or over a month or even a year. No, that's not the case. There are a lot of hours and crying and
lots of crying. Yes,
lots of crying.
Gotta figure it out. I'm seriously, the amount of times I've sat there in front of like a page of code or a schematic and just gone, I don't understand. It's so stupid. Why have they done it? And then, like 3 o'clock in the morning, I could be like almost barely awake, and just be like, "Oh, I'm ready to go to bed." Oh God, I know how to do it. Those sudden moments.
The lightning strikes and it just clicks. And you're like, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah. So. But I mean, I will say a large part of the whole exercise for every single project has been reading and research and poring over every piece of information, no matter how potentially trivial or tangential it might be. There's always a sliver of something in there. Even if there's no information in there, it might point you to another source. That's how we found the details around the ASIC and the gates and how to do that would all just snowball from one tiny snippet of something on archive.org. From a page from 1997, and then you read further. And, okay. Well, I click there and you click. It's a bit like when if you do the thing where you start Wikipedia at lunchtime, and by dinner time you end up on a page that's totally unrelated to how you started, but it's the progression of steps of how you've got there.
Yeah.
I would say a lot of it is research, and a lot of it is also reaching out to other people for help. I haven't done this by myself. I might have collated a lot of stuff, but I've gotten details of stuff from other people, other sources, whether it's been by asking directly or somebody saying, "Hey, I've got this. You might find it useful." So I absolutely want to credit so many. I'd be here doing like a Gwyneth Paltrow at the Oscars, thanking everybody if we were going to go down that route.
Needless to say, there are a lot of insanely talented people who have contributed to a lot of these projects, and I'm sure will contribute to many more. And,
we can hope. Yes, yeah. Assuming they haven't been bored to death by the amount of. Well, I just can't skip the question.
So Emma asks you a question. What machine do you run now?
So right now, my personal machine is a Ryzen 5 5600X. It's a desktop PC. My Mac, however, is a work-supplied MacBook Pro M1. It's a 14-inch. And all of the specs on it are just set to yes. I believe I showed you at the time when I ordered it, Steve. Like, Steve, I'm ordering one of these. Like the day they came out, I'm like, what spec are you going to go for? And I was like, yes. Just all the way down, and just like, I'll have that one, please. And I got to say, I'm impressed with it.
Yeah, we could talk about that for a bit because I I recently purchased a Mac Studio. I was saving up for since 2020 when they announced the M1 Mini. I thought, okay, I want to get the second revision of this in whatever form it is. I try and shy from buying revision A stuff because I've been bitten in the past of, the first gen iPad. Oh, we'll just update that with the camera and twice as fast later on. Yeah, really adopter syndrome. And so I've just had the machine for like a week and a half or 2 weeks at this point. And the way I use the machine is everyone uses their machine differently, but I was primarily using my older Mac desktop, which is a 2012 Mac Pro, which was upgraded to silly amounts because I was still using it as my daily machine, and editing 4K video and all this stuff, and it handled pretty well. And thank you very much for the super chat, Tech Knight. That's greatly appreciated. Eep. With the Mac Studio editing video, everything is just smooth, and there's no delays, no waiting, and it's like I'm waiting for my external drive to spin up, and as soon as it does, it's like all this stuff is happening. I'm like, whoa! Like, I'm not used to things being fast and working when they're supposed to.
When you click a button and something happens, you think, wait, is it broken? Did it actually do something there? That was what really kind of like threw me for a loop, because I took the RBG Doom 3 source code that's on GitHub, and I compiled that for Mac M1 native using OpenGL, the Vulkan wrapper for it. Anyway, compiled that in less than 3 minutes, and it just went, on the screen, just watching it all like disappear in terminal. And I'm thinking, I bet it's saying error on every single line, and then just spat out an executable less than 3 minutes later.
You made a thread about that on TinkerDifferent.
Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah, I made a thread about that as well. And again, bearing in mind this is the 14-inch model, and I'd set everything to native resolution of the panel, not scaled or anything else. Turned up anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering and like texture quality, details like as high as they would go, and I was getting 120 frames per second, and it just didn't drop the entire time. It just stayed at 120 frames per second. Like, I mean, I know it's at this point it's Doom 3, but this thing was responsible, at least when it came out in like 2004, 2005, for melting desktop PCs. And this is just running it in the background on a single core, on a low power core, just idling in the corner, like, come at me, bro. And it's just gobs of system resources that I can't at least take. There was no point in me setting anything to yes. I should have just set everything to cheap and just hit go, because it would have just been just as fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people, myself included, were. There comes to a point with hardware and power and everything where you're like, okay, well, how many more cores do I physically really need for this or that? Or how much more memory can I really use in a system? And when I was playing around with my 2012 Mac Pro Tower, and I had a work-issued machine that was a 2015 model, it was a little snappier, but it wasn't like worlds of difference. And so the first time I played around with, I think it was the M1 iMac in an Apple store somewhere, that was, and yes, I haven't played around with like a 2019 Mac Pro really or anything like that, but playing around with like the M1 architecture, I was like, okay, this is a bit of a jump here. And I think that is one, healthy for Apple's continued products and all this stuff, because obviously that seems to be a very viable way their direction they're heading in for their desktops and their laptops and all this stuff. But I think that it's also been very helpful, because it's like a lot of their machines were sort of like, well, we have an iMac Pro, but we haven't updated it for 3 years, but that's there if you want it. And now it's like, oh yeah, here's an M1 Mac Mini that'll just like go nuts for $799 or whatever,
I mean, the thing is, the machine that I had beforehand that was issued by work was a 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro, and again, that was everything just set to as high as we can, because we do that, where I work.
Course, yeah.
Because I mean, we've got like 7,000 employees, a large proportion of the developers, and it makes it just easier to swap hardware in and out rather than going, we can't give you that one; it's not as good. So just give everyone the good stuff. So
what a concept!
Yeah, I know. Just like, hey, you need this to do your work. Just have the nice thing. And again, I'm not doing coding. I wasn't doing developing. I was just doing IT support, and I was running with a Core i9. I think it was the 8950HK, 32 gig of RAM, terabyte of SSD. So it wasn't like a slow machine. Mm-hmm. It was pretty fast, pretty up to date, and I was quite happy with it, like day to day. But the moment I switched over to the M1, I'm like, okay, bye. That one can frisbee off into the. To be fair, I did actually put a little sticker on it that says "Goodbye, old friend" on it, and then left it in the pile because it's 3 years old now, which means it either gets crushed or sent to e-waste or donated to charity or something. And then just the thing that really blew me away was the fact that it wasn't causing me third-degree burns on my lap, the new 14-inch, and also the battery life on it is just I can't wrap my head around it. It was playing six hours of City Skylines on battery would be pretty unheard of on a 15-inch MacBook Pro, and they and there I am. I'm 6 hours later. I started at 75% battery. I didn't even start from full battery. And then I'm at 20%. And it's like, oh, yeah, your battery might run out in an hour or two. I'm like, wait, what day is it? Oh, wow, I've been playing for a long time. And it's still quite happy. And just, that's the thing that really kind of blows me away is the all-day long battery life, 2-day long battery life in some cases. To go along with the performance.
It's usually one or the other. Either you have great battery performance or great technical performance. And I think that a lot of these projects within Apple and other technology companies have been reaching towards a goal of having a system like this. And I am very satisfied with the machine I have because I don't have to worry about battery life per se because it's a desktop, but all of these things of very fast this, very fast that. Oh, and you could run iPad apps on a desktop machine. And you could do this and that. It's like, I'm not used to these new nice things that are working fast. I'm used to a machine I have to reboot 3 times because it doesn't recognize the mod I shoved in there,
I mean, like Joe says, it's like, you can have, it's one or the other. It's like the old adage, cheap, fast, and good, well built, whatever, pick 2. But no, in this instance, like Apple has actually managed to turn that triangle into a straight line. Just you get all of them. And GeekyBit mentions a good thing here in the comments. That was sort of what I was holding back on. Again, the revision A thing. I don't want to really buy into that, but the original M1 Max had 8 gigabytes of memory or 16 gigabytes, and for me, coming from a Mac Pro that had like 38 gigs of memory in it, which wasn't a huge thing, I was like, okay, well, that is a good size of memory, and I'm feeling myself hitting that ceiling once in a while, not often, but once in a while. And so I had to think myself, well, if I get a Mac, it has to have 32. But I was seeing all of these benchmarks that people were running, all these reports of people doing all these things, and realizing that the architecture is very different. So it's very hard to compare Intel to, the new ARM chips because they utilize memory differently and they read memory differently and all this stuff. So it's like, okay, so, I have to sort of forget that, I need, more than 32 gigs. I've been video editing on this thing for a week now, and I think it idly uses 15 gigs, maybe something like that. Maybe I've gotten up to 17 or 18. So I had to sort of like rethink and wrap my brain around how this is going to work. I think, obviously these machines are pretty new still. We have to figure out a lot of things, and I do, echo what Tech Knight is saying here. Obviously, serviceability and right to repair. Trust me, I am all for that. Yep. But I also understand that this is also Apple we're talking about. They are not going to go quietly in that direction. I do think that we have to push them.
Yeah, we do have to push them, and I think that everyone will continue pushing them. So my fawning over how fast this machine is and how quick the memory is and all this stuff is not letting them go on, okay, well, it's fast, so I don't have to be able to repair it. No, I spent $2,000 on this machine. If that SSD dies, I want to be able to buy one from someplace else and shove one in there. I am all for not soldered on memory and all this stuff. Now I understand with their architecture and their chip and everything, their excuse is everything has to be close to each other and on the same die to achieve that performance. I understand that, but there has to be a happy medium here, obviously.
Yeah, I mean the whole SSD not being able to be replaced, like it's NVMe. You just use a regular M2 slot like everybody else, and we'll be fine. We'll get along just fine. No, they didn't.
No.
I mean, I'm not going to let Apple off the hook just because they've made a nice shiny product that is really impressive. I think they've always had this inbuilt kind of need or desire or want to kind of obfuscate their hardware as much as possible, as seen from even just way back in the 80s, where they're remarking standard off-the-shelf chips to make it as difficult as possible for anyone to kind of figure out how they want to try and drive people towards their official service centers where they can charge you top dollar for it, rather than just say buying the Larry Pina book and be like, oh yeah, replace this resistor, it'll cost you 25 cents. You know, it's they don't want us doing that. They want us to spend more money with them. That's how they make $1 trillion.
Exactly. They are a hardware company that happens to make software. And that is how they're going to stay in business. And unfortunately, I think it will be, they will have to be taken kicking and screaming to be, really make a big impact in this right to repair stuff. Because we see the baby steps of them. Oh, here's a program that we're doing. And it's like, okay, well, that program is limited to only this and that. And you have to be in good standing with this and that. And you can only get this. And like, there's so many caveats to this. And I think that the more companies that sort of show into this thing and are showing that there is a way to do this, I think there could be a compromise there where both parties are satisfied to a degree. And I don't think they'll ever be perfect, but it is, we talk about this on the Mac Yak show a lot. There is that irony of Apple saying, oh, look at us, we're so green. And then you see someone on Twitter have a photo of like a truck full of hundreds of iPads that are in perfect working condition, but they're locked. It's like, so how could you say you're green when there's these iPads that a school would love to have for like a class of kids that need to learn something, and no, these are just going to be scrapped and destroyed because it's not profitable for us to work in a mechanism to unlock them or whatever.
It's funny you mentioned the iPad issue, because at work we did have an issue with there was 8 iPad Pros that were purchased for an event. Long and short of it is, whoever it was set the iPads up, set them with a password that no one knew. They set up an iCloud, and they used that on every single one. Now, we had no idea of what any of those details were. They were never passed on to us, which meant that, okay, we can't use these. Does anybody know the password? Like 2 weeks of like getting nowhere with that. And it was like a case of like, okay, we'll talk to our Apple account manager, we'll get them unlocked. Oh, no. No. It's a 3-week process per iPad, and you can only have one request in that queue at the time. So it's like, unlock one iPad. 3 weeks later, unlock one other iPad. And it's just like, I should just be able to take a list of all of the serial numbers, send them to our camera. We have the invoice, right? We paid for these.
Here's the serial number.
Unlock them now, please. And they're like, but why? And I'm like, they're ours. That's for us to determine. Unlock the damn thing. And so they're hiding away so much behind useless obfuscation and just stonewalling just to kind of go, oh, you can't use your device now, you're going to have to buy another one. Which a lot of people probably would. They would be frustrated to the point of like, I've had enough of it. And they throw it away and they just go and buy a new one. Which is
they'll buy a different brand because, they're pissed off at Apple now,
Yeah, so Apple's one of those people is like, well, you're poor anyway. We don't want your car.
Yeah, Apple's like, you didn't spring for the solid gold Apple Watch. We don't want to speak to you.
Well, I feel very sorry for the people that did get the solid gold Apple Watch, because now there's no support for them at all. Yeah.
Oops. Yeah. But it is very nice that yourself and a lot of people in the community are doing their best, whether it's new or old technology, to document the heck out of things. So this stuff will last for the future. And some of these things are just really cool to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird situations where actually reading through technical documentation just for a giggle, just like, I don't have this particular Mac, but I want to read the technical specifications and stuff that Apple published for it. And then actually just reading through some of that stuff, I was like, oh yeah, oh that stems from that. Oh, and then you realize, oh, well, that did this in this old version, because this is the thing with Apple's documentation anyway. A lot of their technical documentation is kind of like, oh, I'm just going to be deliberately vague about this particular thing, and it's okay. It's in the hardware. You don't need to know about it, and they hide it in the technical documentation. But then the sales guys have gotten hold of this, and they're like, "Hey, check out this feature! It has this, and this." And you're like, "Oh, cool! Thanks, sales department. I'll take that."
Yeah, it has a 16-bit bus for this or that, and you're like, "That's the piece that unlocks this." You know, you get a salesperson who doesn't know what it is, but it sounds cool, so they can sell it. You know.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
So one of these cool things I know we wanted to talk about is the Blue SCSI. And so for nobody who has been aware of what's going on, basically with the Macintosh and a lot of old machines, the original hard drives are physical and they are dying. Here is a PowerBook hard drive. I believe, yeah, this is a SCSI PowerBook hard drive. It is probably dead. There's a stack of them on my desk. I forget which ones are dead, but a lot of them are dead. And so whether it's a laptop drive or a desktop drive and it's using the SCSI interface, that is something that is getting harder and harder to replace. Apple used SCSI back in the day because it was faster and it was a little more expensive than IDE, so they weren't too common in your run-of-the-mill cheapo PCs. So that makes replacing SCSI drives a little more difficult. You can't just buy an IDE to compact flash or SD card adapter and the stuff that a lot of people were doing on the cheap for PC stuff for the past few years. So there have been a few advancements in technologies where people have created their SCSI controllers on a chip. There's the SCSI 2SD and all this stuff. But the Blue SCSI and the raw SCSI are two projects that I've just sort of gravitated towards. And I have a raw SCSI. I have the original Blue SCSI. I have the DB25 Blue SCSI. I have a PowerBook Blue SCSI. So you go to bluescsi.com to find out the details about this. But I know, Kai, that you have a particular flavor of the Blue SCSI that you wanted to talk about here.
Yes. So the Blue SCSI F4, for anyone that is unaware, is essentially it's a side port of the original Blue SCSI code to a slightly different microcontroller. So by standard, the Blue SCSI is so known because it uses what's known as the Blue Pill, which is a tiny little microcontroller development board based around an STM32 F103 microcontroller. It's an ARM Cortex-based microcontroller. And it's pretty fast. You know, it's pretty capable, but it's kind of limited in the fact that it doesn't have a load of spare memory, and the clock speed is only, I think, 72 megahertz. However, there are these out there. This is called a black pill. So I don't know if my camera will focus on that. Probably not. But anyway, so this is a black pill. Then what this is this is an STM32 microcontroller, but this is the F411 version. So these are about £4, £5 each. You get them from AliExpress. There's a particular seller out there who designs these things from scratch. And using this wonderful little carrier board designed by Androda, this one here. So this wonderful little carrier board, you can build one of those. So SD card slot. You got your floppy power connector, and you've got your 50-pin SCSI, same as every other Blue SCSI. The difference is that the F411, because it's a faster microcontroller, it's got more system resources, more SRAM. There's a bit more in the way of just raw horsepower. So, for example, on a beige G3, the throughput is up to 1.6 megabytes per second.
Oh wow!
Up from about, I think it was 1.1, 1.2. So we're not talking like huge improvement. In terms of performance, but there is performance improvements there.
Wow.
there is also the room and the potential to implement features a little bit later down the line, such as say things like a read cache, which spinning Rust drives have read and write cache. Blue SCSI doesn't have any of those, but it's possible to implement when you have enough SRAM. When on the Blue Pill with 20k of SRAM, you probably wouldn't be able to fit in anything useful there, and code's going to use up a large part of it. But again, black pill, more system resources, more SRAM available, more flash. You can use it. So
I I have this. I believe that's an offshoot for the PowerBook. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the correct. That's the one for the PowerBook, the 2.5-inch version for it as well.
And this is also the slightly newer DB25 version of the standard Blue SCSI. So this is a great external one for your Mac Plus, or just something that you want to plug in and get up and running for an external Mac. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that one of the cool features of the F4 versus the standard Blue SCSI is the ability. So these use USB-C.
I have one too.
So these ones you can program through the STM32 Cube programmer, and literally it's just been a case of you don't have to faff with like ST-Link or anything like that. Again, I bought one thinking I'm going to need this. Did I? No. I did not. I didn't need it at all. Literally just a standard USB-C cable linking my my desktop PC to this, and connect it in DFU mode by holding down the button on boot and then hitting reset. Ta-da! Just came up. There you go. Flash the firmware over. It was easy as anything. So I don't even need to add the header onto this board.
I found copper on mine.
Panic! Yeah, it's the one kind of issue with these black pill boards is that sometimes they are so cheap, so they are built to a price, and that includes also sometimes being, you might get a dud one. I have got a big bag of them. To be fair, out of 20 of them that I've had, about 3 of them have just outright refused, to work. Managed to get one of them working just by reflowing the chip, and another one by reflowing the USB-C connector. But one was just completely just doesn't do anything at all. But for £4, I can't really complain. Yeah. But that's great. The F4 is one of the things that I'm hoping to be selling via a Tindy store sooner rather than later. I have a big box down here with ones I'm slowly building up, and I'm going to be going through and testing. So if anybody in the UK wants a desktop 50-pin version of the Blue SCSI F4 with the latest firmware, then please let me know.
Excellent. Could you answer Justin's question here that I have popped up in StreamYard?
So yes, there is indeed a GitHub page. So if you go to Android's GitHub, you will find the source code and Project Gerber's hardware. Everything is all there.
Excellent. Yeah, because I only have the PowerBook version of that, so I will have to get myself, maybe from you, a non-PowerBook version because I have a G3 Mini Tower. You mentioned it. Now I have to plug it in there.
Well, now I've got one of these built. I'll send you one. I'll send you one with all the other goodies.
That was the whole point of this stream. That's all we want to do.
Just free shit. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yes, I mean, that is just so cool though, because the old SCSI hard drives were personally my thing that I kept running into problems with, because I would buy a stack of them at like a vintage computer show. And I actually have one I was going to send to Tech Night, and I went to test it, and it didn't work. And there's a box of like 20 of them, so I have to go through them. Tech Night, you will. In fact, I'll bring it to VCF. So I know I was going to say I was going to mail one to you, but I will bring 1 or 2 to VCF with me Tech Night if I can actually test them, or maybe you want to test them on your own. That's fine with me. But there was like a stack of 20 of them. I said there was a whole box, and I said, you do like $20 for the whole box, and there were at least 20 drives in there. So they didn't spend a lot of money on that, but as soon as I did that, then I'm like, oh wait, the Blue SCSI came out. I could have bought one Blue SCSI.
there is actually also another option for people that may not be aware, is that so there is a lovely guy called Max, who is one of our moderators on TinkerDifferent. Mm-hmm. One of the things that he builds is 80-pin SCA to 50-pin adapters. I'm sure you've seen these things floating around on eBay, made by no-name Chinese electronics incorporated, with like the cheapest stuff going. And half of them work and half of them don't work. However, his ones actually work properly. They're properly terminated, and they've got a nice little jumper block on them as well. He manufactured these things. I believe they're about £12 each. But I've had amazing success adapting compact 80-pin server SCSI drives to 50-pin because they actually have fallback to 8-bit mode. So they will work absolutely fine. So that's another issue is that people out there that go and get, say, an SCA hard drive and an adapter, they're like, this thing doesn't work. So half the time it's the adapter, and the other half of the time they're buying an SCA drive that doesn't support 8-bit mode.
That would explain a lot, because I do have a lot of those cheapo adapters, and a friend did give me a stack of old server drives, and for the life of me, I couldn't get them to work until I tried a different adapter, fiddled around with the jumpers like 80 different times, and then it sprang to life, and I'm like, oh, it works.
Yep. And that's the thing with with Max's adapters as well. It means you can actually spend about the same amount of money as you would on, say, a SCSI to SD. But then you can get yourself a 15,000 RPM SCA drive with 128 megs of cache. That is being bottlenecked by a Mac Plus.
Well, obviously, you could download everything possible and put on that drive that a Mac Plus could ever run.
The funniest thing ever is actually I put one of these drives with these adapters into my own personal SE30. So when I turn it on, it sounds like a 747 at full power takeoff. It's like you turn it on in the kitchen. It's like, what's that noise? What? What's that? It's an SE30. Does it get quieter? No.
It's doing stuff.
And then when you go through FWD hard disk toolkit, and you're like, oh, I'll just do a quick check. It's like, no, because then you just sounds like you're in the middle of downtown Lebanon or something, and it's like. It sounds like machine gun fire, and it's not. It's literally just this hard drive just going, just accessing everything at once.
Unlimited speed, yeah.
The SE30 just didn't know what hit it. It was like, the hell's connected to me, man?
Unplug it, I'm scared.
It's too fast.
It's too fast.
It's like, prepare for ludicrous speed. Yeah. Certainly the SCSI control inside is about to just ignite. That's it, I've had enough, I give up.
I've seen too much over my 30 years. This is too much for me.
Speaking of SE30s, you have some SE30s that are in dire need of repair.
That is correct. Yeah. So I have one board that does work, and so that I'm shoving into my clear case Mac Effects, which is a project I'm working on. Mm-hmm. And you've given me some tips for the power supply, so we have to figure that out. But I have two other boards. One is battery bombed pretty badly. Mm-hmm. The other is very rusty. But I think they're both candidates for, we could rip most of the chips off of them and recreate it, which is why you're sending me some lovely blank boards.
Yes, that's correct.
And I will just spend, a month straight soldering, and we'll see what happens. If the fumes get to me or if the machine works, we'll see.
6 hours. 6 hours. Because, and the reason why is because with a batch of SE30 Reloaded boards that I had made up, the last ones I had made, and Eric will be getting one of these as well, Eric Helgeson. These have been already pre-populated on the rear side, so all of the discrete components, resistors, capacitors, all done for you already. You need to move the inductors over, because I don't think anyone actually bothered to record what the values of the inductors were. That's the only reason why they're not on the bill of materials or the pick and place. Essentially, all you have to do is, once you've moved the inductors over, it's all the top side stuff, which is all chips, which are actually really easy to put on. Mm-hmm. And SIM sockets, ROM SIM sockets. And again, I'm sending you some 64-pin SIM sockets as well. So you can, build up with a ROM, some 30-pin SIM sockets, so you can, at least fill at least one bank with RAM.
I'd be happy with that. That's a common thing. We see Joe and Tech Knight in the chat saying, they have problematic SE30s, and they are machines that unfortunately love to be problematic. I got one on my desk that I was probably repairing for 8 months straight. And it turned out the video ROM chip was installed backwards. That was one of the problems, but I got it to work. And then that, through somehow either the ultrasonic cleaner or the previous person who sent it to me, whatever, I was like, that chip doesn't look correct. And I took it off and switched it around the right way. And sure enough, it worked. But
what a lot of people don't know about the SE30 is that, unlike a lot of machines at the time, because essentially it was a shrunken 2CX. And yeah, the 2X was just mega chunk. So they shrunk that down to make the 2CX. And someone said, hey, can we fit this in a compact Mac? And they went, okay, we'll go again. And they squeezed it down a little bit further. And they created the SE30, which was a 6-layer board, not a 4-layer board.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when you get like a battery bomb or a cap leakage or whatever, even if the traces look fine, all it takes is one of those vias to just be rotten out from the inside on, like, say, layer 3. Yep. You're not getting in there. That's it. It's, you'll have to run so many patch wires and all the rest of it, but there's no guarantee. You might look at it and think, I can't see anything wrong here. That via goes through to that fine. Like, yeah, it might go through that fine, but have you checked the second layer?
Yeah, you can't tell. Yeah, you can't tell. So
yeah, and that's that's the nice thing that Boll's done with the SE30 recreation is he's made it into a 4-layer board because modern EDA tools can handle smaller traces, but also modern PCB houses can handle smaller traces and smaller gaps between traces, so you can fit more in as well. And that's just their basic bread and butter stuff. This doesn't even phase them these days. Whereas back then it was like this was cutting edge, like PCB manufacture we don't have to worry about now. So it makes it a lot simpler. So even though it's the same layout, there are a few little tweaks and improvements that have been made along the way, and that really. I think anyone with an SE30 at this point, if it's battery bombed, don't bother trying to repair it. The amount of time that you will spend trying to fix a battery bombed one, you'd be quicker to get an SE30 Reloaded board pre-populated with the components for like $40.
Witness.
And then just move over the custom chips to it. It'll take you half the amount of time, and you're guaranteed it's going to work because it's a brand new board.
Yeah. And you have a proposition there from Christian.
You fix one, keep the other. If you want to pay the shipping to now third world Britain, that is fine. I'm not even kidding about that. Since January, since we exited completely from all of it, I've been like, oh yes, can I get that from Europe? And it's like, no, sorry, you can't. Even stuff for work, I have this stuff sent over. We pay a lot to get it all shipped in, and I still get DHL ringing me up, just go, you owe 20,000 in customs fees, and I have no choice but to pay it. So yeah, if you want to try and send it, you're welcome, but it may cost you 300 euros to send it over.
It might not be worth it. Oh gosh. Yeah, that is So the SE30, I have some problematic SE30. So when those arrive, I'm sure that'll be one heck of a marathon of a live stream, and you could be in the live chat just eating popcorn and egging me on throughout the entire event.
I'll do this the entire way through, so you can just like Q&A, and I'll be sitting here flipping through like the SE30 schematics. Like, you done that wrong, page 2.
Yes, Kai. Yes.
It's like, Steve. The only problem is I can't reach through the screen and go, just give it here.
Imagine that. Like, oh my God, please.
I can't figure this out. You sort it.
Yeah, take this board, please. I had someone reach out to me. I forget what country they were in, but they were trying to ship me a Logic board, and the quote was just a silly amount. And they kept sending me blurry pictures, and I'm like, if I could just reach through the screen and just look at the thing, and they're just like, okay, there, and then give it back. I think we'll get there one day, maybe not in our lifetime, but we'll get there one day.
While we're on the topic of like recreated Logic boards, I do have to paste this into chat as well. This again is done by our friend Max over on TinkerDifferent. He's reverse engineered the 2CX Logic board as well.
That I saw that. Now I have my family's first computer was the 2CX, and unfortunately, after recapping it, mine just does not. It'll chime, but it won't display anything on the NUBUS slots, like no video, because there's no onboard video on the 2CX. And so I think I even commented in here like, oh my gosh, or whatever, but oh my goodness. Yeah, look at that. That is dense. That's a big board too.
Yeah,
I mean,
we had a bit of an issue trying to load the image, the scans into Sprint in the first place, and it turned out that we actually needed to switch it to grayscale for it to be able to fit in the requirements for it.
Wow!
And these are big boards, so obviously Max has taken on a huge board cost here to develop this, and obviously you can see kind of like some of the patches that he's had to do, but other than these patches, it works. And it works fine with the patches. So yeah,
I will have to reach out to them because that I don't know what the particular issue is on mine. Maybe it's just a bad trace I haven't seen or something like that. But mine, I get no like the lights will turn on the new bus cards, but there's no activity. There's no video or anything. I think it'll actually like try and boot, but I can't see anything on the screen. So that might be something for me to tinker around with. But that it's great to know that there's another option there, not just a compact Mac, but a freaking Macintosh 2CX, which is the 2CI is technically faster, but I have a very soft spot for the 2CX. So.
My absolute favorite is the 2CI, just because for me it's just like the sweet spot. It's not the fastest O30. That's obviously the 2FX. I actually have my 2FX board on the way to Bruce now to be fixed because I got to the point where I wanted to throw it off the balcony. It was like, why won't you work? Why won't you work?
And you're basically saying, hey, Bruce, all that time that you spent troubleshooting from here, here's something else for you to work on.
Well, I mean, he's getting very good with the other 2FXs, so why not give him another one to try that's not been battery bombed yet still doesn't work. I'll go into that in a little bit, but the 2CI for me was the sweet spot. 25 megahertz wasn't the fastest, but it had all the expandability of it. You didn't have to buy a video card for it. RAM-based video worked fine for most people. You had a cache card slot, still had new bus slots. You had 8 memory slots on it as well. It was just a very expandable, adaptable machine, and I love that case style that was introduced with the 2CX that went all the way through to like the Quadra 700 with a few minor tweaks. I love the fact you can take it apart without any tools. I love it.
There it is. Right there. There's the 2CX. And it sits there because it's very unhappy right now. So that's why it's currently on display. But yeah, I mean that form factor I think is very iconic. And yeah, it was on the Quadra 700 too and everything like that. And Christian is asking the question I know the answer to, which is Steve needs an 840AV Reloaded, which means I would have to sacrifice mine. And I will get to that point where I want to throw it out the window, and I will throw it in your direction, Kai.
One thing I want to say is that if anybody wants like a reloaded board for a particular machine, I'm happy to do that job as a project. I really am. I just lack the original board in the first place to be able to do it. I have a 2CI at the moment that is basically. I'm pretty sure that it's dead from the trace damage that's been done under the SIM slots, the ROM sockets, but the new bus chip's dead, and so I can take a whole bunch of components off that, but it's not enough to build up another one in order to be able to test it. If I can get a few more 2CI, like dead 2CI boards, whether they be battery bombed or whatever, as long as I can salvage enough of the components, I can strip it down and I can do what Max has done with the 2CX, or even. We can get Max to do it. Maybe Max wants to do the 2CI as well. It's just a case of I need the boards. I know one that people have asked me for is the 2SI. Okay, happy to do the 2SI as well. If you want me to do a Quadra 700, take a leap off of the end of a pier. But just the density of components alone, there alone. The only way I would take components off that board is literally to put it in my household oven and just wait until everything falls off.
I am always on the lookout for battery bombed boards because of that. I actually saw one at it was last year's VCF event. Somebody actually had in a consignment. I think they wanted $20 for a battery bombed. I think it was a 2CI, and I was like, well, if it's here at the end of the show, I'll take it. Somebody bought it before me, so somebody will clean that up. But those are prime candidates for I need the chips off of here so I could do whatever. So if you do run into a board like that and you have no use for it, or even if you do but you want to sacrifice it for the good of many, contact Kai on TinkerDifferent. Contact Kai on TinkerDifferent.
I got a consignment of boards off eBay. Somebody on eBay, it was one of those, like, I don't really know what I have, but it might be useful, so I'm putting this up for like 10 quid. Obviously, a few people had found it, and I was in a bidding war. and again, I posted this up on TinkerDifferent, and it was basically 3 SE30 boards that had been recapped by someone with the motor skills of a hummingbird. Is all I can suggest. It's just, and they'd used like radial caps on SMD pads, and they were just hanging off like traces and all sorts. So three SE30 boards that I wanted just for the custom ASICs, because hey, SE30 reloaded boards, I'm fine, I can use those. There was a G4 Quicksilver board in there. There was, I think it's on my desk. Yeah, there you go. I've got a 604 PowerPC 120 card
nice.
from like an 8500 or whatever. And the whole lot I ended up getting for like £100, which was not a bad price, considering that each one of those SE30 boards, like, that could make an SE30 out of that. And for anyone with an SE, it's like, hey, I might not have a chassis for it.
Yeah, I have the screen, I have everything,
Yeah, the chassis are easier to get hold of than the boards. So
yeah, and Tech Knight says he may have a spare 2 SI board, so there you go.
I will pay you shipping, sir. Seriously, mail it to, as long as it's not too far gone and I can read the traces on the top, then we'll talk.
Now, wasn't maybe I'm getting confused with the 2CX, but doesn't the 2SI shares the same PDS slot as the SE30, correct?
It does. That's correct.
So the 2SI came out before or after the SE30?
So the SE30 came out in 1989. So
so it was after.
Yeah,
right.
So the 2SI came out after. There were a very few cards which worked in both machines, and I think it wasn't from a standpoint of signaling. It was just mechanically what would fit the cases and what wouldn't. So there are some mad PDS because with the 2SI you could either have a PDS card or a new bus card. It was one or the other. There were until you went to like people like Daystar who went, oh yeah, here you can have a PDS and 2 new bus slots in your machine, and produced adapters like like that. And again, I know that some of these things have been worked on as well.
Yeah, and I have a box full of not full, but I have like 2 or 3 Radius display cards for a 2SI that apparently, if you're very skilled, you could shove it in a SE30, but the physical part of the card is too long to ever fit in that with the case on.
See, there is one. I know Zane Kaminsky has come out with like a project currently for like accelerators. Not on the topic of the 2SI. Just before I forget and while it's in my head, I do apologize for the tangential bouncing here. So he's come out with a 20 or 25 megahertz selectable SE accelerator card, which. He's posted up all the details on TinkerDifferent. But a very nice guy called Ryan on our Discord posted me one of these. This is a Supermac speed card. So there we go. Slightly better. So this gives you a 16 megahertz 68,000, but also gives you some about 32K of SRAM cache and the ability to use an FPU as well, a dedicated FPU.
Cool.
How much use that might be to somebody that wants to play Dark Castle or Shufflepuck Cafe, I do not know. What even uses FPU for most part on the classic 68K stuff, but that's again, this is one of those ones where this is not a 4-layer board. This is a 2-layer board. This would be cheap to remanufacture and turn into a reloaded board. The only issue is aside from every single part on here is still available, pretty much for purchase either through UT Source or just new. There are a few PALs on here that need to be reverse engineered first. So if anybody that wants to take on that side of the project, I'm more than happy to reverse engineer that one as well.
Well, that does make it easier when it's just a one. I guess it's 2-layer if it's double-sided, correct?
Yeah.
So
if it's just double-sided, you don't have to worry about like ground plane or voltage plane or anything like that. It's just when dealing with these sorts of boards, it's the earlier they are, the easier they are.
I think I shared with you a. I'm sorry. Go on.
No.
Go on a tangent. But I think I shared with you a picture of this, or is a similar one. This is a modem board for the Macintosh Portable.
Yes, you did. Yes.
Yeah, and so this is. It looks like it's just. I mean, it's a thick board, but it looks like it's just double-sided. I took the liberty of taking the ROM off of there and dumping it because how many of these things are still out around there now? Does it make sense to build a modem for a portable? Probably not, but if someone really wanted to use one and had a burned ROM, well, I have the image somewhere, so that's why not.
Yeah, I mean,
it takes me 5 minutes to do after Bucking Kai reminded me how to do it.
I mean, to be fair, when you sent me that image, the first thing I did was just to see, is that, like Tech Knight said, it's the ASICs that are used in a lot of these cases are very application specific. I looked and I found that UT Source still actually sell that particular ASIC like new old stock, so it's possible to get those parts, and everything else was off the shelf.
Yeah, wow.
But
yeah, because I mean, you have something missing like the ROM or whatever. And that is, I'm sorry, I keep pushing the wrong buttons on StreamYard, making everyone dizzy. Like if everything is off the shelf, then yes, if there's a ROM that's custom programmed or whatever, you need to have a dump of that, and that's what I've run into a few times. I think I accidentally fried a ROM on a raw dime 5.25 inch hard drive. So if I ever see another one, I'm going to dump the ROM and archive it because I need a working one. If there's any, why would I want to play around with that old hard drive? I don't know, but somebody else may have a good reason, data recovery or whatever. So it is very cool to have the tools and abilities with all this newfangled technology that we have. And you could reproduce things, you could recreate things, and just sort of, keep the vintage stuff away from sort of getting into that realm of, it's unobtainium and only the dorkiest people and the most expensive tools with the deepest pockets can build this sorts of stuff, because that's not fun. What I love is seeing people who are, maybe they're not so hardware focused, but they're developer focused, and people like Gruz making brand new games for the Mac. I mean, like that stuff just blows me away. And it's people who are, building these hardware solutions or working on emulators and stuff like that, who are allowing people to get, into the weeds at this stuff of, let's say it's software development or accessory development or whatever. And I think it's so cool to be able to use these tools that we have today to just continue building on this stuff, because I know when I was young and this stuff was not too old, it excited me, and it excites me more because people are still using it. It's not dead by any stretch of the imagination.
No, absolutely, and obviously now we've got modern EDA tools such as KiCad and Sprint Layout and everything. Doing this sort of stuff is a hell of a lot easier than it was even 10 years ago, and I think, as I mentioned before, we've gone through a period of people having a lot more time off suddenly over like a 6-month period globally than we've never had a situation like that, and where people's interests suddenly align. There's been an explosion in interest of not just electronics but retro computing, and obviously the prices along with it, unfortunately. As supply dries up, and there are price gouging polka dot merchants out there as well. It doesn't make it easy. So the ability to reproduce stuff as well, and keep this stuff alive and in the hands of the enthusiasts or the people that want to get into it. A dead SE30 does no one any good. Selling it for $700 just as a classical art piece for your living room, like just get in the seat. Just go. Give me that machine for like $50. You can stick a reloaded board in it, and then you have a working machine that everybody that wants one can enjoy.
And that's maybe a good segue to talk about sort of collecting and prices, because and we could talk about that for hours, but that happens so often where you'll have somebody that maybe they're not necessarily understanding of the value of what they have, but there's a difference between the value of something and what it's worth. And what people will do is they will look on a place like eBay to gauge, the cost of what something is selling for. But it's not really selling for that. It's the seller asking for that amount and hoping that someone's foolish enough to buy it for that amount. And if you look at the sold listings, it's not always cut and dry because eBay does not count when someone makes a best offer. It doesn't really record that in a way that the public can see. So it's very easy for somebody to get tricked or think that something is selling for one price when it's not. And you'll get people like locally, there's a guy with the Mac SE, and it's been listed probably locally for a year or two now. And it's listed for $100. It turns on and everything, but it's just a regular standard SE. And I had messaged them at one point because I think it's one with the FTHD. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll pick it up. And I messaged them if I could come and take a look with the keyboard and the mouse because they didn't have any of that. And they wanted $100-something just for the machine. It was all grummy and had dirt all over it and everything. And their response was, nope, I got to sell it. Like, I have no time to talk, no time for this. If you want it, come get it. Well, it's been there for like a year and a half now. So obviously time was not the issue there. But these folks who are trying to sell these things, I understand you're trying to get your money's worth and all this stuff out of it. And maybe you need the funds for whatever. That's all well and good. But I think there's an issue here where people are seeing the Apple logo and seeing dollar signs and not understanding, no, that's just a regular SE. Or no, that's a battery bombed classic. Yeah, they made so many of them that yes, they are hard to find in good condition. They are harder to find with the original box and everything. But a friend sent me a photo of a abandoned facility that's not too far from me.
Oh, I think I've seen that one.
There are Molar Macs, there are Color Classics, and they're just littered like in piles. And the first thought of my thought process is, oh my God, look at those poor things, they're suffering. And the second part is, okay, technically that's breaking and entering. Technically that's Steve's going to jail for trying to rescue a computer. And it's like there are a lot of these things still out there. And I think when people go to eBay and they want something fast and they want it shipped to them directly, don't want to hunt for it. Sure, you have the money, you go spend it however you want, but I think that it's negatively affecting the way a lot of these things are priced in most people's eyes now. Because if you're not an enthusiast, you may think, well, that Mac Classic that's worth $500, and that's never the case.
It's self delusion a lot of the time, and thinking, oh wow, I've got this old thing. It still works. It must be so rare. It must be worth a load of money. I'll put it up for sale. I just paste you a link to there. This is for a Quadra 950. So I have Quadra 950 in my search because I got one finally, but it came without a power supply. I had to buy the drive rail separately again because the guy that was selling it was parting it out, which was irritating as anything. But so this particular Quadra 950 again, you see. Okay, I want a Quadra 950. Oh, look, there's one on the. Oh, how much do they want for that? Are they high?
Yes, yes, they are.
I mean, knock 3,590 off the price, and sure, I'll get it. But I feel like making an offer and saying I'll give you 350 for it. And
I don't have one of these machines, and I don't think I'll ever have one at this point because of auctions and the perception that these are, yes, they are desirable. I will give them that. They are awesome to look at. They are also huge boat anchors that are taller than a Mac Pro 2012, so these are ginormous machines here. This is approximately $5,300 when you do the conversion here. And the person that would really want to play with one of these, like you, to reverse engineer it or do some good for the community, you can't easily look at that and go, yeah, that's a justifiable expense, because it's not. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's absolutely
exactly.
ridiculous.
Whereas and the other end of the spectrum is the more, I'll say the rarer side of things, where you get listings like that. And that's a bit more reasonable. You think, okay, yeah, my finger has indeed hovered over the submit bid button.
Yeah,
on more than one occasion, because for that, that's a.
And you know what, it's yes, it's still high, but it is, and that's sort of also part of this problem, because you see these things that are listed for thousands of dollars and you go, oh, this is a bargain, but it isn't. It's still it's very highly priced, and this is an untested machine. And a lot of people always ask me, how much should I pay for this? It's untested. And I will often say, I really find it hard to pay over $50 for something that's untested, because you do not know the extent of what is lurking under there. It could be a battery bomb. It could be just leaking capacitors. It could be stored in a barn and everything's rusted. You don't know. And it looks like this seller has a few photos of the inside, but I mean, that's not really close up enough to have a detailed look of what's going on inside of the machine. And it could be in perfect condition, but you don't know.
That's the thing. Well, that photo is taken. You can kind of see like, oh, okay, well that looks all right. Yeah, but the PRM battery is above that second bank of SIM slots. It could have gone pop, and then luckily for because of the 950's design, if it does pop, it kind of dribbles sort of down the board. But that could quite easily have taken out every single SIM socket from where it sits. So
and you won't know that until you paid the $600 in auction plus $100 shipping.
And then you've got a nice condition case with nothing inside it. I mean, I suppose you could take a G4 motherboard and squeeze it in there. That could be a cool resto mod.
But you could have done that with 3D printing and saved yourself $500 maybe.
Or just get yourself an ATX computer case for $20.
Just get yourself an ATX computer case. There you go. I mean, that's. Yeah. And we're getting a lot of similar comments in the chat here. I'd pay this much for this and everything. And I know somebody who I met up with recently. They were giving me some parts and stuff that they didn't want, mostly printers and stuff that nobody else would be crazy enough to accept. And and they said, oh yeah, I bought a Quadra 700 for about $600, but it was in very good condition. And my first reaction was, what? But okay, I guess if you have those funds to spend, it's in the condition that you're looking for. It's all recapped with the power supply, or whatever. If that's worth it to you, go knock yourself out. I'd be hard pressed to spend over $100 or $200 on a vintage machine of questionable state. I bought a power computing desktop that I did not have. It was a different form factor, but the insides weren't too exciting. But I spent $120 on that. And even though that was very uncommon, I've never seen one like that before. It was a good shape. It was confirmed working. I still was like, $120 on and that's just me. That's just my personal feeling for that. But different folks have different, expenses and different deposits in their bank accounts that maybe can make that easier for them. So.
I will say that for anybody searching for a Quadra 700, which is a very sought after model just because it is in that lovely case, and it was the first Quadra that came out in 1991. Anybody wants one, look at Buyee, BUYEE.jp. They are a service that will bid on things on your behalf from Yahoo Japan auctions and sort out all of the translation for you.
Yeah, so I've used them before. They're pretty good.
Yeah, and they I got from them through them a Quadra 700 for £143, including shipping. That when it arrived was maxed out with 68 megs of RAM. All of the VRAM and a 100 megahertz Daystar PPC 601 accelerator in it.
You hit the jackpot.
No, they had 11 of these for sale, and they kept not selling. I think they still got one or two of them still on there. And
how much were they?
It worked out to about £80 or £90 for the whole machine.
Wow.
And then shipping on top. I opted for the cheap ass shipping of send it around the world for 4 months in a on a container ship, and I get these massive boxes. They're really good at packing them. I got a massive box that I could barely fit through the door, and it was like a Russian doll. You just kept unpacking stuff. You get through the middle, and there's this tiny little Quadra 700 sitting in the middle. You're like, wow, is that Is that it? Is that all that's in it? I mean, not complaining. It all arrived in one piece. Nothing was broken or brittle. It fired up immediately. The hard drive in it still worked. It still had Japanese System 7 on there.
You send me the link. Maybe I'll find it myself to get one.
But see, it's a prime example of how different cultures treat retro stuff. So in Japan, they just treat it as it's old, it's junk, it's worth $10. You know, even if it's working, they'll still mark it as junk. I found a PowerBook 180C in working condition. That the only thing missing was the rear flap, which, let's face it, it's PowerBook 100. Of course, it's missing the rear flap. But in otherwise immaculate condition, and that was $36 US.
Your old friend Emma is looking for an iBook, apparently.
An iBook. Again, best place to post that. TinkerDifferent.
I did mention that.
For trade and wanted sections. Yeah.
Steve's printer basement. Thanks, Justin. But yeah, that's the type of thing, you know. Yeah. Sorry, go on. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Sorry. I was going to say, Steve's printer basement. Would you like a Mannesmann Tally MT86 dot matrix printer?
Well, I didn't know what it was until you said dot matrix at the end of it.
So it's one of the, again, I picked up it was a PowerPC 8100. And yeah, it was the 8100 110 AV. So top of the line, came with the wonderful magneto optical drive as an external, an A3 Agfa SCSI scanner, which I don't need. Anybody, please, if they want it, you can have it for free. Just take it away. And it came with like a Sony 15-inch multi-scan monitor. It was wonderful package deal. But in that package was this dot matrix printer that was designed for use with, I believe it was a Macintosh Plus. Or an SE, something of that vintage, and single serial cable to 25-pin DB adapter. This thing weighs as much as my BMW. It is heavy. It is constructed from solid. Yes, it's just. And the surprising thing is, well, it shouldn't be that surprised. It's built like a freaking tank. This thing turns on, works fine, as if it was brand. Why wouldn't it? As if it was brand new. And it's not like your standard slow 9-pin jobs. It's like a 24-pin, does like 3 billion pages a minute. The sort of thing you'd expect in like a bank vault to be printing out account details, just hammering it back and forth, making an absolute racket in the lounge. Honestly, made it sound like I could fire up a chainsaw on the balcony and no one would hear it over the noise of this printer. So again, if anybody's looking for a dot matrix printer or a scanner, please let me know. If you can take it away for free.
If it wouldn't cost you an arm and a leg, I'd take you up on that to alleviate your space. But I'm kind of running out of I don't know if you could tell. It's kind of running out of a little space here. At
this point, I have your address. I might very well just send it, just to see what you make of it.
Just the way you describe the Russian doll boxes with the that's gonna be this. It's gonna be like on the back of a truck.
Yeah, just a container. Just like you open the back doors and it's just like it's a bit like the beginning of the intro to Get Smart. Just just keep going all the way down, and there's literally
it's somewhere inside. It's you holding the box. Here it is, Steve. Yeah.
Like, this is yours now, and then all the doors shut, the container drives away. You're just standing there confused. Well, you wouldn't be holding the printer. You'd be like,
yeah. I need back surgery afterwards. Yeah.
I do come across a lot of stuff that was otherwise expensive in eBay terms for next to nothing, and a lot of the stuff I'm quite happy to give away for nothing as well. Just because something is just got an Apple logo on it does not mean it's worth anything.
Yeah, and I had it's funny, within like 3 months, I had 3 separate people reach out to me for an Apple personal laser writer, the first model that's very bulky and just like someone in the chat is mentioning, that looks sort of like an anvil. And so I have 3 of them now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's like they're sitting in my garage, and thankfully, with events like VCF East, I could maybe bring one there, and if someone's interested, they'll happily take it. But it's like, okay, so I'm the custodian of this now, but now what do I do with it? Help, please.
I've just noticed that somebody's mentioning about the laser writers in chat. I will say at university in 2004, I had a laser writer. I think it was a 12640. And again, I pulled that out of a dumpster for nothing. I fitted a new toner cartridge to it, and it worked fine. There was literally no reason for it to be thrown. I mean, fair enough, it came from Apple UK's dumpster at Stockley Park in West London, but there was no other reason for this thing to be in there. So I took this thing, and at the end of the year, I was I didn't have a car at the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, right, you've got to move out of your halls of residence and you've got to move into like temporary accommodation. And I'm like, I can take my clothes and just about manage my PC on like a hand truck. Am I taking the fridge that I pulled out of a dumpster and this laser writer that I pulled out of a dumpster? So I'm like, no, farewell, my friend. You will be, this is the end of the road for you, I'm afraid.
No, you put the laser writer in the fridge and then...
The fridge wasn't big enough. There was no fridge big enough. To put a laser writer. I mean, this thing was a brick. It was so hardy that I remember there was an incident with a bunch of idiots that were, because the way that our halls of residence were arranged all around a quad, and I was on the first floor, and we were trying to get rid of some people that had been hanging around after an event. So we decided to put my speakers right next to the window and play Rednex's Cotton Eye Joe very loudly at 2:00 in the morning, and it irritated them so much that they threw a cup of coffee through the window, which missed the speakers, but ended up being ingested by that laser writer. And I'm thinking, okay, that's it. That laser writer is dead. It's toast. No, it just printed everything for about 3 weeks afterwards, like it was on ye olde parchment. It's like every document I printed off looked like the U.S. Constitution. It's just like, hey. Just kind of stained.
It's an art installation now. It's not. It's.
Do you know what? The building that replaced that entire university campus, I wouldn't be surprised if they had actually just like kept my room. They demolished everything else except for my room, and inside there is just that laser writer still sitting on top of that fridge, just as a kind of like homage to Student Life 2004.
We couldn't move this; it was way too heavy, so we're just going to keep it here. Oh wow, Francois is saying he once salvaged a Spark X terminal with the screen from a dumpster. Oh, that's cool.
Yes, and that's that's actually a really good place to go and get your stuff sometimes is dumpster diving, especially near universities. The SGI Indie station that I have or had before I donated it to Neil of RMC, that came from University of Sussex Chemistry Department after they upgraded all of their machines to PCs around about 2005 or so. And they dumped all the SGI gear. Literally, we're talking like Indies, Crimsons, Octanes. It just skip out the back. Everything just went in, just getting thrown in. Rescued as much as we could, but again, but it didn't last a day. There was no reason to put a dumpster there. They just everything just went. Vultures just took the lot.
And that's first off, there's two sides to that. My mind think. First off, yes, it's so cool that you could just grab that stuff. But second, it's like, how much time would it have taken them to like post something internally at a local college or whatever, saying, "Hey, look, we're getting rid of these machines. There's no hard drives, there's no personal data on them, or whatever. Have at it. Here's a great opportunity, even though it's old." And I think that the problem is there's a lot of people who don't understand how computers work, who are usually in charge of disposing of this stuff. And a perfect example of this was even people that do know about computers are sometimes unaware. At my old job, somebody showed me the server closet where a bunch of G4X servers were, and they were all unplugged. And I just casually asked, well, what are you going to do with them? Well, they'll sit here for a while, then they'll crush them. I'm like, what do you mean crush them? Well, make sure there's no data left on them. I'm like, you're aware the hard drives come out on little sleds, you don't have to crush the whole server. Oh, but the memory in there. And I'm like, it's off. It's not retaining anything. What are you talking about here? It's just boggling to think about some of these things sometimes. And it scares the crap out of you, So I'm going to let you take a quick break while I rant on that for a bit if you want.
No, that's fine. I will be back momentarily.
Okay. Yes, I mean, I know there's legal things you have to consider about, whose property it is and this and that. But when this stuff is going to get e-wasted anyway, yes, a company has to decide: are they going to pay for the disposal fee, or are they going to get the few dollars from the scrap or whatever it is, or is this stuff going to go to somebody who might enjoy it or use it? And I think the problem is a lot of these folks don't think that there's a use for any of this stuff, whether it be electronics, whether it be computer equipment, whether it be books or whatever it is. Yes, I understand there's only so much that could be saved, but when I read these posts or I see these pictures that people tweet to me, it's like, don't send them to me anymore. Like, I'm tired of looking at things that I can't save. That's like, oh yeah, here's a pallet of Mac Classics and Mac SE30s that are just in this abandoned building somewhere. Yeah, nobody could take them. But here's a picture of them decaying. It's like, I don't want to see that. That just depresses me. Oh goodness. But I mean, there are good places. There are good people who do recycle stuff. There needs to be more of them. But there are great places who will recycle stuff and will reach out to you or will let you know, hey, look, we got this in. You have a day to collect it or whatever. Or we take this stuff, we donate it, we scrap it, or we try and fix it up and we sell it for cheap amounts, or we have a prop museum that's made up of this stuff. And I think the problem is you need people who are enthusiasts about this stuff to sort of manage that, and that's not going to be available for every person. I had a great friend who used to work at Eway's place and would put aside stuff for me, but they're no longer there anymore, and that company has the building is no longer there. So it's one of those things where you get all the getting is good, and then when it's not there anymore, you're kind of like, okay, well, that's it, party's over. But just going through some of the chat here. Yeah, Francois is saying, I recall seeing a photo of a Next Cube in a dumpster. Oh gosh. And look, we've all given away stuff. We've all thrown away stuff that we regret. But it's sad knowing that there's items that are so sought after by some people, and other folks will either gouge the heck out of the price so it's unobtainium for anybody, and on the other hand of the spectrum, they're just being thrown out because nobody knows what to do with it. Oh, nobody wants that. Oh, nobody has a use for that. And yeah, it takes effort for somebody to find out, or make a post somewhere, or get the word out, or communicate otherwise that, hey, I have this thing. And sometimes it's not possible. You have to throw it out immediately or whatever. But, there's, whether it's a business or a university or whatever, it's very wasteful. And I think that's what bothers me most of all. It's so much waste that somebody could use the plastics of that machine, the chassis of that machine, the disk drive, the hard drive, the whatever it is, the cable, the chips on the board. I mean, there's something that could be scavenged from those machines, and we are such a people full of tinkering abilities that we want them, even if it's dumped. So, and Kai's back.
I am indeed back. Yes, hello. Sorry, I just put it this way. I went for some beers this afternoon, and they all needed to be released.
You had to recycle them.
Yes, yes, exactly. Recycling, the possibilities are endless. I have some goodies here. So this is,
oh boy,
this is the thing I'm going to be sending you. This is the SE30 Reloaded board, pre-populated. Ooh. There we go. So you can see all of the all of the components for the rear side have been pre-populated with the exception of the inductors. So all you have to do is you need to do the top side. And I've got all of the ROM sim sockets for you to put in there.
Oh, that's exciting.
So, yeah, should be easy enough for you to do. I say should be easy enough for you to do. Don't know. And then
you'll get a text message from me at 3 a.m. crying.
Help. And I've got another one. I've got another one here, which is the classic Reloaded, but this is the version 1.2. So yeah, that's the it's Enid.
That's a very pretty coloring on it.
So that's I don't know if my camera is just making it look different, but it is just standard green.
Oh,
but
okay.
it's the gold plated connections on there, because we're not going for anything less around here. Also, I don't like corrosion on pads and stuff. So yeah, gold looks really good. The black and gold looks amazing, but they don't do SMT assembly with the black and the gold board and the SMT assembly on top, unfortunately. But again, this one pre-populated as well, and then your name is still in the corner
I don't know how I conned you into that, but thank you.
I don't remember either, but I'm too lazy to take it off the Gerbers, so
we'll just leave it that way.
We'll just leave it there. And then to go with it, I've got a there we go. We've got a Macintosh Classic RAM expansion tower to go with it, so you can fit the SIM sockets to it and the original memory. So if you want to give it 1 extra meg, just pop the memory on. And
that's cool.
So yeah, the connect everything for this board you can still buy brand new from Mouser. The only issue is the connector that this uses is about $14.
You have to really want that extra memory.
So yeah, well that's the thing. I mean, these cards are like they never go wrong, but so many people for whatever reason has removed this because it's easy and taken it out of the machine, thinking, "Oh, that's the machine's RAM or whatever," and then they just get lost or crushed or whatever.
Yeah.
So many classics just don't come with them, which is the onus for putting these.
Now the pins on the bottom of that, it's refresh my memory. It's a female connector.
So it is it is a female connector. Basically, you could do the same job on the classic side of things. The header is on that side there, so you can just use standard, almost like IDE header for that side. Yeah. Okay. So it's male pins on that side and then female pins on that side. But if you notice, the connector spacing is slightly different. That's because it's meant for. Just why Apple specified that weird connector, I don't know. Again, these things are no longer like strictly necessary. Again, Zane Kaminsky from Garrett's Workshop does sell a plug-in board that does exactly the same thing, that fits in the same spot. This is only for if you want to. The Gerbers for these are out there. They're not hidden away. Anyone can build one if they want to, with all of the building materials and all of the pick and place files available. And they usually cost around about $3 each to make from JLPCB. So I wouldn't even be selling them. I don't think. Again, because the Gerbers are just available and out there.
I like Justin's reasoning. It's different because reasons.
It's different because reasons. Again, it's another thing of like Apple deliberately obfuscating what they're doing, and
they are very good at that. That is
they're very good at being contrary. But yeah, like you said, because reasons. There is one other thing in this box.
You can keep it a surprise.
And then it's not a surprise. This isn't coming to you. This isn't coming to you. I won't be found suddenly like, wait, where's one of the? I gave it to Steve Baxney. He conned me. No. This is
damn.
This is a.
Ooh.
Do you recognize it?
That would go. Wait a second. Wait, would that sit on top of a LC?
No.
Tell me what it is. I'm going to guess wrong.
Okay, it's for an SE30.
Oh, so it sits where the processor does on the first revision.
Yes, okay. Indeed. Yeah, and it's quite. The originals are rarer than rocking horse poo. That's an expression we use here. I don't know if it's used there, but still.
Now I'll start using it.
Okay, so it's rarer than rocking horse poo, and this is a recreation. This has been done by somebody else.
I can see the logo on it.
Well, you can see the logo, but I'm not gonna say the name or mention the name.
I won't either.
Like if you know, you know. But essentially, is if you know, you know, and these will I believe be for sale at some point in the future from the original creator, but a limited run of. These are SE30 Power Cache. That's a recreation of the SE30 Power Cache. So SE30 at 50 megahertz and the additional cache to go with it.
So that would look very nice in my clear SE30 case.
It would as well. And the thing is, like, the boards in this particular instance are purple. So if you wanted to make up an SE30 board in purple as well.
When those go on sale, could you remind me, and I will sell off a limb or two and try to.
That's the thing. I've got a box of all the components needed because I'm building like that. That's it.
Yeah.
And that would be the only one that gets built.
Yeah, I would I'd be very interested in knowing when those go on sale, or if you could message so and so and tell them so and so was interested in so and so.
Yes, I can do that. I probably kind of like spoiled it by showing like obviously the logo was on the board as well. But
no, there's no logo. What are you talking about? That's
yeah, right, yeah. We didn't show you anything. Yes,
rewind.
But the other thing that I did want to mention as well, this is sort of partially tangentially related to our talk on Blue SCSI, which is obviously SCSI devices not really made anymore. But there is also the issue of how on earth you access SCSI devices on modern machines, because it would be nice sometimes to be able to check out, say, a CD-ROM drive. Does that work? Or an MO drive or something on a machine which has got SCSI. Most of the time, that involves using an older machine which just happens to have a SCSI adapter in it. However, I have discovered these little things. These are LSI SCSI controller cards.
Oh, that's right. You linked one of those to me.
Yes, I did. So on the back, it's a VHD68 connector on the back, but you can get cable. Weirdly, the cable cost more than this card.
They do.
This card cost $15. But again, it's PCI Express, so it goes in modern machines. The drivers are still available for them, and it will allow you to attach SCSI devices with the right cable of any vintage to your machine. Whether or not your machine can read the drives or whatever, that's entirely another problem.
Yeah, that's a different problem.
I mean, put this in the machine with Linux, you're golden, and you'll be able to read pretty much anything. But it gives people another avenue to be able to play around with SCSI on a modern machine for very little money.
And I did grab a USB to SCSI adapter that I will take apart for you and take detailed photos of, because this one looks like I could take it apart easily. So that was the one where I think Bruce pasted the link on the TinkerDifferent Discord, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's gone!" And he said, "Yeah, I think somebody around here picked it up." But so I have two USB to SCSI adapters. And I also have a FireWire one because someone was selling a scanner and included the adapter as a bonus. I already had the scanner, but I'm like, oh, I could use another one, and it has this stupid adapter for under $100. Like those adapters people ask silly money for, the FireWire ones. And so I have that, and that works great. But the USB one, there's one that's a translucent blue one that I'm having trouble getting into. But then there's I think it was the Orb branded USB one.
Oh, the Castlewood job.
The Castlewood one, which I think is very compatible with a lot of things. I see people on YouTube using like a 5 adapters and plugging it into an iPhone, and they could read a SideQuest disc, silly things like that. That would be so cool, obviously, if the parts are available and all of such, to make sure that those adapters are obtainium again. Because if you look on eBay for USB to SCSI adapters, it's like, oh yes, that'll just be 300 of your finest dollars.
Yeah, and that's if you're lucky. I mean, so many. Like, again, this is one of those things of like somebody goes, aha, there's intrinsic value in this, I will ramp up the price. How about no?
It's like, I'm interested, I'm not that interested.
There is, however, another option. Have you ever heard? Yes, have you ever heard of Teensy SCSI? So Teensy SCSI is, again, this is an open source hardware project. It's on GitHub. It's a work in progress currently, but this is a USB to SCSI adapter that has been designed to be open source.
Well, then who the heck needs my adapter then?
So
we do like having options. So
again, the stuff around SCSI is happening because it's one of those problems that, again, somebody noticed a problem that, well, you can't access SCSI stuff over USB, and why not? So, well, there you go. There is all of the Teensy code for it. The Arduino project, the C++ files, the headers, the hardware, everything. It's all just there.
So is this in a state where it's I see work in progress, but I can't read GitHub to save my life. Is this something where it's actually functioning, or it's in a beta right now?
It is functioning, but I believe it's essentially the equivalent of beta. So
Okay.
you can have a look at the PDF down the bottom, and that'll that's got the.
Oh, look how that rendered. It rendered greatly. Thank you, browser. Okay, no, that's
so that's right in the middle of the screen. You just got a dot.
yeah. Well, if you put all these together, you get form of SCSI adapter.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah, so you're starting to get like silk screen and front side, the back side, and all the rest of it. But yeah, so the project, that one out there does exist, but it's more as an example of the sort of projects that are starting to crop up. So if you ever ask yourself, I wish X existed, it's probably being worked on or already exists.
And Eric mentioned Squishy SCSI, which I don't know if this is the right one I found, but it's apparently another SCSI project, so that's cool.
Nice. Like we like these.
We could use some more SCSI projects. I mean, that's what places like TinkerDifferent are for. Just like come together and say, "Hey, I want to do this," and then you get like 50 billion people being like, "Yes, let's do it together," and you get these lovely projects that just come out of thin air. I love it.
So one thing that again I found through TinkerDifferent, and from some of the some of the great people that post on there, was actually one of these. So this, as anybody should know, is the reset and interrupt programmer switch for a 2CI 2CX, right? You cannot buy these for love nor money anymore, and the amount of them that have probably been thrown in the trash or in the recycling boggles the mind. Okay, so they're very difficult to come by. You can now get 3D printed versions of these, so you can either 3D print your own, or you can go to like Shapeways or whatever, and you can get these 3D printed now.
You'll have to link me. I have like one.
I will find it from our clan of very big.
Yeah, and I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, I mean, like stuff like that is great. Like the power buttons for the G3 or the Mac 2 series and stuff like that. I mean, the one I have on the shelf doesn't have the buttons, and so it's like, it's not original. It doesn't have everything. But yeah, those are the things like the reset and interrupt buttons on the side of the SE30 and stuff like that.
So this one is particularly good. This particular project, I love it because it's so ridiculously simple, but also it's designed not just for the 2CI and 2CX, but also the Quadra 700, for the Quadra 650, for the PowerMac 7100 as well. So if you're missing these parts from your case, ta-da!
They look great too.
Yeah, they're interchangeable ends. So the actual assembly you can print, and then you can just swap the ends off. Are they square or are they?
Oh, I didn't catch that. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Wow, that's very handy.
Let me just post the URL in chat for everybody. There we go.
Oh yes. Sorry, I'm just like drooling over this. Oh, that's great. I'm bookmarking this.
So that's the sort of thing that I have a friend called Mark. Some of you may have seen his channel. Mark Fixes Stuff.
Oh yes.
Yes, and he's been playing around with the different kind of 3D printer, not the filament kind, but the sort of resin bowl and UV cured stuff, which makes really, really, really accurate 3D prints possible and weird shapes as well that you can't do with a filament one. So
that's neat.
I mean, these things are really starting to come down in price as well. So I might actually ask him if he can, maybe produce like a few of these, just so we can kind of see if they, how the design comes together and how it comes out and how much it will actually cost. And also, Christian, if you want to, does it come with a 2CI included with a CAD card and fully loaded with RAM and not battery bombed? Because if it does, then I'll be in touch.
Oh gosh. Oh boy, that's
yes. And Tevruden makes a very good point. The fact that you can just go, I don't have this, I'll just 3D print it. That is something, again, we didn't have that 10 years ago. And I love the fact that more and more people are starting to come out with like 3D. kind of wobbled out my hand there. 3D printed versions.
They're spring loaded. Pew!
Things
And-
like
and-
this. And I'm pretty sure that Bruce actually came up with the power button for the. I think it was Bruce. Anyway, I might be misattributing it. So either yay Bruce or like boo me for like getting it wrong.
Well, I know that Joe of Joe's Computer Museum made a bracket for the back of the Mystic Color Classics, so you could put in like the 575 board, and he found like a filament that matches very closely to the color of the Color Classic, and you could just put that plate on there, and that's great because like probably 5-6 years ago on eBay, somebody was selling a crudely made plastic one. I don't know if it was 3D printed or what, but they wanted like $40 for it. It was for a hunk of plastic that wasn't even original or anything. And I thought, I'll pass on it. But it was in my saved eBay thing. So every once in a while I would say, are you still interested in this? And the guy had zero quantity, but the store was still up. And so just so cool. People are being like, yeah, I'll just recreate that. And here's the file for free, or, I'll print it out at a small cost to you, and that is just like, that's what this community is about. Yes. If you're going to invest a lot of time and effort into this work, yes, sell it, make your funds back on it. But, also, put out things to the community that are helping them. Like, yeah, I need a piece of plastic so I can restart the damn computer. Okay, well, here's the file. You can print it yourself.
Yeah. I mean, there's 3D printed versions of the programmer and interrupt switch available for the classic compact Macs as well. And yes, actually, Francois makes a very good point. The RAL 7044 is the filament that you can get. There is actually. Okay. I think there's a group buy for that filament on TinkerDifferent in the 3D printing section.
Yes, I did see that.
Like a 99.9% match. It looks brilliant. It looks absolutely bang on. Like as far as my eyes can tell, anyway.
Oh yeah, here's I see a thread about the for Macs and Apple IIs. I think that's it, right?
Yes.
Let me share that screen. Yeah, so here's a. It's too light. It might be okay. So there's one that Joe was posting about here, and then I think was there a different thread for the group buy? I can't remember.
No, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I didn't scroll down. Oh yeah, that's pretty darn close. Look at that. That is awesome. Oh, that's just now. I need a 3D printer like I need a hole in the head. I mean, where would I put it? But
I would say actually, funnily, there was one that I was watching the other day on Linus Tech Tips Short Circuit. It's an Anchor one that's going to be coming out shortly. It's less than $1,000, but it is built like a tank and produces really good high quality prints very, very quickly. It's something like 6 times faster than your standard 3D printer.
Oh wow!
So
I guess that would be worth the price. Yeah,
that would be worth the uplift in price. I know you can get like a Creality like Ender 3 or something for like $249 or whatever. But spending 3 times as much to get a printer that can do stuff like 6 times or even 10 times faster. Yeah, I can see that being worth it.
If I find some work quickly, maybe that'll work out.
Also,
what brand of that? I'm sorry. What?
That was Anchor, Anker.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Go on, Kai. Please.
No. I was just going to say apologies for the belching. I'm having a can of whatever that is. So it's I mean, to be fair, there isn't. Oh wait, it's just. Yeah, Arctic Ocean Mandarin soda from my local Chinese supermarket. Literally, I don't even know what is in here. I cannot read any of the ingredients on the back. It tastes.
It's probably best.
It tastes nice. There's probably formaldehyde in there, or melamine, or who knows? But
it helps you solder. That's all that matters.
It helps. It helps me solder, and also it it gives you a bit of a lift to your day, is what I hear about. Some people that have various like sugary sodas, and me being diabetic, very much so. There's giving a lift and giving enough gas to give me enough thrust to exit the planet orbit. Just so yeah.
I think I found the Anchor Make on
yes,
Kickstarter.
That's the one.
Not that I'm advocating for it or anything, but the project is available to back. I assume you might get a discount if you back it here or something like that. Yeah, 20 24% off or something like that.
Yeah, there is. I think the normal price of it would be, I think, $749.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's the one, and they did do a special on LTT short circuit on that. And again, the kind of precision you get out of it, again, because it's built like a tank, and like their custom slicer and the speed of everything, it looked really, really, really impressive.
That does sound cool. If I had the $600 something to blow on it, I probably would consider it.
Yeah.
Look, moving right along before Kai gets any bad ideas.
No. You say don't get any bad ideas, and I'm just looking at that scroll back, thinking, hang on a second. I've got no. Behave. I've got enough stuff in my in my back pocket as it is.
Yeah, that's the problem. I brought home those printers from somebody who didn't know what to do with them. They were going to throw them out, and I bring them home and I open the garage and I'm thinking, okay, I'll just put these on the shelf. Oh, I put the other thing on the shelf where this was supposed to go. These will have to stay in the car for a while, and then the next day, a friend's like, "Do you want to Xserve an Xserve RAID?" And I'm like, maybe.
It's funny you mention how things live in the car, because currently in my boot, I have a brand new boxed LC475 with monitor.
Ooh.
I got from a guy who was like, "Oh, this was in my loft for ages, and I took it down, and it just doesn't turn on anymore. So, hey, do you want it for like £50 or whatever?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll take it for 50." I'm fully expecting to kind of open it up and be and everything inside to be battery bombed, but
of course.
Hey, original polystyrene, original boxes.
Well, what's interesting about those machines is even if everything's dead, if the hard drive is still alive, those machines did not ship with the regular restore media because they were all floppy disk based. So Apple gave you a backup program, and the idea was that the probably 50, or probably 80 meg hard drive on that, or 40 meg hard drive, whatever it was, the data 60. Ooh, okay, 160. Fancy. So the 160 hard drive on there had the original data of the programs or whatever that was bundled with it. And the only way to have a copy of that is if somebody painstakingly copied all of that to a floppy or an external drive or something like that. So you could probably guess how many times that has happened. So there's been a few threads online of on Macintosh Garden and things like that of people looking for like the original sets of software that came on these machines, because every Performa and LC, it was like, well, whatever software flavor of the month, we'll put on there, and it's the business package or the productivity package or whatever. And so, the
475, the 476, the 477, the 477A Mark 1. Was
exactly.
You go through the list of all of these, like, there is no difference in any of these machines. Just sell one and let me choose.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it does get a little problematic where I have a van outside that doesn't work 100%. So the back of it is sort of filled with computers at the moment.
It's mobile storage.
It's mobile storage. It has wheels on it.
It can be towed.
It can be towed. And the problem is the blank shelves that are empty in the garage are at the very top. And so it's like, okay, I need a ladder. I need to lift up heavy CRTs above my head. This comes in dangerous territory. Dial 9-1, and when I scream, dial 1 again.
See, I noticed the shelving that you've got to at least from where I'm looking to your right. Yeah, that stuff there. That looks kind of a bit like Big Doug shelving. We use at our work. I would just recommend investing in a whole hell of a lot of that.
So this shelving unit was probably, I think it was around $250 or something like that. Heavy duty stuff. I think it's just about 85, 86 inches wide. It's the whole height of the basement, so I couldn't make it any higher. But those are you can't, let me bring the camera up just a little bit. Those are G5s and Mac Pros at the bottom, so those are quite deep, these shelves. And this is more for display. Thankfully the camera only really sees these two because there's a bunch of crap up here that is over there. But these shelves are much cheaper, and I really have to go through them because there's just so much crap here that I'm afraid this is just going to bow and go.
No, Steve, it's not crap. It's vintage rare Steve Jobs.
I'm sorry. Vintage rare Steve Jobs, especially the monitor with no leg up there. One battery bombed SE, another battery bombed SE30, another battery bombed SE30. This is just.
You say battery bombed SE. That's why you bought the SE Reloaded.
That's exactly. Now you know where those parts will come from.
Okay.
But the problem is, I have 2 of these in the garage right now, and I bought them because I went to the e-waste place and they were going to kill off these poor iMac G3s, and I said I will take them home and love them. And now the shelves are filled with iMac G3s, so they're a bit bulky.
I know what you mean about the iMac G3s. How about the eMac?
Well, I guess how many I have.
Yes, all of them.
Too many.
Oh, okay, too many. So I scored the Unicorn, the 1.42 last of the line run out model with everything.
With the swivel.
With everything included, like pimped out memory, hard drive, everything. And it works.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, literally everything, like from Fresh OS. The guy did a Fresh OS install on this machine. And we're like, oh, here, I'm handing it over to you, just to make sure there's no personal data, and also to give you a nice Fresh OS here. Have a friend. I was like, that's great. I paid £42 for it.
People would pay that just for the stand.
Yeah, probably, yes. But that's the thing. I was thinking this would be like a perfect bridge machine. Because, I mean, although I've got a G4, it is a desktop machine. And although I've got the beautiful ADC monitor that goes with it, the widescreen, and all the rest of it, and it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy whenever I set it up. It does take up a lot of space in the kitchen, which is the only place on the breakfast bar where I can set anything up. So to be able to just lift an eMac in there, or an SE30 or something like that, I like the idea of being able to just do that, and the fact that I could just plug in like a USB Wi-Fi card and it'll work.
Yeah, and that's what's so tempting about like the PowerBooks and the iBooks is you could get sort of that bridge machine functionality in a compact design, and it's like you have like 90% of the functionality of that desktop, even if it's an eMac or an iMac, or to Power Mac a less extent because you don't have all the expandability cards and all that stuff. But like, it's a vintage machine. That's a bridge machine. I used to, when I had to fix an exhibit at the Liberty Science Center, which is a museum not too far away from here, they were running on old Mac classics, and so they had the classic die. I brought an old PowerBook G3 with a SCSI connector on the back, and I was able to rip all the data off of the hard drive for that.
There's a lot of tempting bridge machines out there, shall I say? So here's a question for you. What is the Unicorn, the one that got away, the one machine that you've always wanted, but you've never been able to quite find the right one?
So I've had a few, and I'm very lucky to say that the amount have dwindled down. So when I was in, I think it was high school, middle school, I was promised an iMac if my grades improved. So what happened? My grades improved, but I didn't get the iMac. For whatever reason, I didn't get it. But a year or two later, there was a refurbished Keylime G3 iBook that is sitting under the shelf of one of the monitors there, hiding away. And the Keylime one was only the custom order color from the Apple online store and all this stuff. I didn't know that at the time. I just thought green was cool. That became my laptop. But it was refurbished, so it didn't come with, or it did, and we threw them away, the box and the accessory kit and all that stuff. So for a while, I was looking for the Keylime box, and I was able to finally find someone had one, but they were selling a computer with it. The computer had issues. The screen had problems and all this stuff. I said, well, I don't really care about that. I just want the box. And so I was able to get the box and everything, but it was missing the accessory box. So then I put out a call, and Mr. Polka Dots was like, no, these are rare Apple things. I'm like, shut up, you. And then he blocked me on Facebook. That was fine. And so somebody said, I'll give you the box if you do this recapping work for me. So, okay, fine. So I got the accessory box, and now I have a complete Lime iBook with the box. The box is a bit sun faded, but I don't care. It's cool.
It's original. Steve Jobs.
It's original. There you go. Steve Jobs. Look with the @ symbols.
Yes.
The other one for the longest time was a Macintosh Portable. Now mine does not quite work, and I have to thank Tech Knight for his expertise because we did work on it for a while, and I have to find time to play around with it again. But I had an incident where I was working on it, and my desk is like this, and I had the screen here, and the screwdriver went like this and rolled and went right onto the screen and put a nice little dent right in the middle of it.
I think I saw that live stream.
Yeah, thankfully I showed a photo of it, after the event had happened. But if this was a live stream, if that was on a live stream, I would have been demonetized instantly. The colorful language that came out of my mouth made my wife come downstairs and be like, "What happened? Like, who did you kill? Like, what happened?" Like, because I was just like, because it was perfect placement of like, it had to be here. I had a cover, like a thick padded envelope that I was putting over the screen so nothing would touch it. And for whatever reason, while I was testing this thing, I said, I'll just put it over here. And I didn't put that thing on top of it. And of course, the one time I didn't, that's when the screwdriver. So
Murphy's Law.
Exactly. But somebody very kindly on Facebook was saying, I have this new in-box Macintosh Portable backlit screen with the Apple service box and everything. They were in Romania. What? And I'm like, okay,
how
what
many
do you
do
want
they
for
have?
it? They only had one, and I don't know where they got it from, but they were collecting of computers, and they just didn't need this anymore. I was able to work out something, and I got that shipped to me. I haven't plugged it in yet, but it's like beautiful. I want to actually take pictures of it.
Don't take it out of the box and sell it in case it's like a screwdriver seeking missile.
Yeah, no, it's like it's going to be packed like that Quadra 700 was that you got, like in layers and layers and layers. So that if I could fix that, great. And the thing people always ask me is, oh, do you have a TAM? And look, the TAM is cool and all. I don't have one. And my stance has always been, if one comes to me, I will not say no to it. However, the cost of these 20th anniversary Macintoshes is a bit silly, and they're very cool. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like something I'm like dying to have. Somebody did put me in touch with someone who supposedly had one, but no. So the moral of the story is there's less and less that I'm like, ooh, that's a thing I want. It's now coming out into weird things like this chonky AAUI adapter that I only saw in a book once that Apple made. That's literally a power transformer brick with a power socket, like a standard like Macintosh PC tower power socket, AAUI on one, and then the Apple AAUI and the non-Apple AUI on the other. Like just for doing like network like they could have like put a little barrel jack and no, it's a full honking power supply in a brick.
I think I've seen somebody actually took one of those and hollowed it out and fitted it with a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah,
I can't remember where I saw it, but yeah, I've definitely seen somebody do that. They're like literally a week ago or less.
So like that, those are more the things that I am fixated on. But things that have gotten away. There was an Apple IIc display with the stand in the boxes for $40, and I like messaged them 5 minutes too late. All this stuff, and so that it's a little painful to think about, but I have obviously plenty of stuff to tinker with. I'm not starving of the crap to tinker with, so I'm fine. But it is I had a Mac Plus and a Mac SE of some type that I didn't know how to fix, and I gave it away for $1 like 20 years ago. So yeah, that stings. But I haven't done too badly. But there are things like a Quadra 950. If I could find one that's not $1 billion, oh sure, it'd be fun to have it. If I could find a Quadra 840 AV board, there's it's weird things like yes, and that's the fun of it, like the chasing part. That's the fun part of trying to find something. Like I didn't know that Apple made an image writer LQ, and so I was looking up what the heck an LQ is, and then I found photos of it. And then somebody 2 hours away in Pennsylvania had one, so I drove out and, of course, picked the stupid thing up. These are the crazy things that a man of my style goes through every once in a while.
See, it's difficult for me because obviously being in the UK, Apple machines because they were just so expensive here. There weren't as many. They were typically purchased by businesses or colleges or that sort of thing. Very few people had them as home machines until like later on in the late '90s and stuff. And that stuff's easy enough to find. Like you can find a G4 or a G3 easily enough. It's the earlier stuff that becomes difficult. Now I've managed to pick up a unicorn a couple of weeks back in that Macintosh Plus. Again, I posted the thread on TD, and that was a very nice man. Was like, oh, here, I've got a Macintosh Plus. It doesn't work. Would you like it? And I'm like, yes, please. And of course,
we will do things to it.
We will do things to it. And I've got the. Where is the logical? Oh, it's hang on. It's literally underneath the Stanley Tucci book. Ow! This is spiky. Ow! Not the book.
Don't worry, Kai. I make the same mistake.
So again, the board that came out of this thing is immaculate. It is like virtually new. It's from a 1987 machine. It's in platinum. And there is zero problems with this logic board. It is like I said, it is like new. It's got 4 megs of memory, and it's Apple memory. It's got the Apple computer on the back of it, all the rest of it. This has the extended keyboard with it as well. It has the mouse with it.
Oh, wow.
No chips, no scratches, no dents in the case. It looks like it was just unpacked. However, and I was having this chat with Tech Night the other day in the Discord server, that unfortunately, it would turn on, it would go, doot, and then it would turn off, and then it would turn back on again, doot, again. But then the gaps between it beeping halved each time it turned on, and that was the power supply failing to turn on properly. So, obviously, okay. Okay, fair enough. That's why it wasn't turning on. I'll recap the power supply. So I've got all the caps. Got all the caps which I thought I needed. Unfortunately, all of I will say, for the recap guides that JDW puts out, they are fantastic, and they are very well written, researched, and presented. JDW even posted up like a mouse basket of all the caps you needed. So of course I went, yeah, sure, I'll go and buy this. They only work for the North American analog board, unfortunately. And I have the international version, which uses slightly different. A lot of them I was able to use, but I had surpluses of some which just weren't used anywhere, and not enough of the ones that I did need. So, 100 microfarad capacitors that were like 450 volt rated. I only had 2. I needed 4. That sort of thing. No biggie. It's fine. We'll work our way around that. So I'm working my way around that. And then Tech Night was like, "Yeah, your flyback transformer's dead." And I'm like, "Really? How can you tell?" Literally from a photo I took on my phone of the board as a whole. Yeah, it was like CSI, like enhance, enhance. And then he was like, "Yeah, your high voltage stack on the side of it." Oh yeah, and I'm looking at the side of this tiny. It's not all that big. And you look at the side of the computer. Where are you? How did you find this remote? Oh, there it is. One tiny little crack in there, and it's that's arced out. So I had to go and get a new flyback transformer for it, which I will say they are available. They are still available, new old stock. So there's a company in the US called Dalbani. Apparently they've been mentioned in all sorts of repair literature for about.
How do you spell that?
Dalbani. Now they are Dalbani Corp on eBay. In fact, actually, do you know what? I will just find where they are.
You could share your screen in StreamYard here.
I daren't try that in case something goes horrifically wrong.
That is true. Wait, I found an eBay store with them.
Right.
They have a bunch of chips and such.
Yeah, they have a lot of new old stock. But there you go. I just sent you the direct link for it.
Oh, great.
So this is the updated flyback transformer that works in the all models actually. I think the 128 all the way through to the SE30.
A bit pricey, but I mean it is what it is. It's brand new.
Yeah, they're brand new. They're not. They used to be like a couple of years ago. Tech Night was saying "Oh yeah, I used to pick these up for like $10." And it was like, yeah, okay, well, there's 10 times more than that now.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's
now there's a demand for them. Yeah.
Now there's probably more of a demand for them, and then probably it's like now they realize what they've got. and that they're
once they're gone.
Once they're gone, they're gone. And yeah, so I was like, I'm not gonna mess around. I'm just going to get another flyback transformer. It's simpler that way, and I don't have to worry about it. And then, hopefully get the Plus up and running.
I got a flyback transformer for it. Is apparently the same one that works in the Apple Studio Display 17-inch, not the AGC one, but the Blueberry or the Graphite one, which I have 3 of those monitors. One has screen burn and it's terrible. One works but shuts off, and the other one I haven't had the heart to turn on yet. But the flyback was $14, and I'm like, well, I'd be stupid not to buy this because it's brand new in the box. These things are getting harder to find, and it's one of those things where when they're gone, they're gone. And I will say I do have. I mean, if you ever need any parts, the American versions, of course. I was given from my e-waste adventures 2 years ago a good amount of Mac SEs and Mac Plus machines. I don't think anything is wrong with them other than the analog board and the flyback. So unfortunately, they're probably the wrong parts for you. But obviously, if you need another photo of something,
all of the flybacks are identical regardless of region. It's just the analog board differences that's the only issue. The international analog board is a bit more convoluted in the fact that it's dealing with double the amount of voltage. So basically, it's stepping it down to 110 and then stepping it down again, rather than just doing 240 to. Just so some of the decisions. I'm looking at that analog board, thinking, why the hell have they done? Oh, cost, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What do they do with it? Oh, cost.
It was 13 cents cheaper to do it that way.
Yeah. So makes sense.
So what I'm sorry to ask this question, but what would you do with the Plus after it's all fixed up?
That's not the point. No. Okay. The Plus, I've always had a like a bit of a soft spot for the machine since I watched Star Trek 4. Because that is the very machine that Scotty picks up the mouse and goes, "Hello, computer." The thing is, though, the one that he was using in the film was in 1986. It was one of the very first models with the non-extended keyboard. But then when they went to Platinum, and you had the nice, big, chunky, extended keyboard after that, I just like, ooh, I want one of those, because it was like that keyboard never fit any other machine. It was just for the Plus or before, and of course it's Platinum, it's rare. And if you can even find a Plus these days, it never has the keyboard or it never has the mouse. And then and the fact that I got all 3. And nice guy called Dim's like, here, have a Plus with everything you need. It's like,
why not?
Yeah, my brain. And again, I know we were talking about this earlier. My brain kind of interprets that as like, that could be a holiday to Cyprus, just as a fix it, and it's like, yeah. But just I know. It's like this is the evil part of my brain that just kind of thinks.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well,
and then there's like you've got like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, and the devil's like, you do it, book holiday. And there's the other side of it is not quite so angelic, just going, nah.
You can play with it and be happy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So there's the Plus. I've got. Let's see. I've got the Quadra 700, which is that was like my holy grail machine. Thought I'd never get, and obviously I've been very lucky to be able to find that one. I don't think there's any desktop machines, at least, that I would be after. Somebody again did actually offer me a 20th anniversary Macintosh.
Nice.
A couple of months ago, and nothing more has materialized on that. I've not had any they've not pinged me on messages or anything on the forum. So I don't know if that'll actually pan out or whatever, but while it would be that would be quite nice. I think what I would actually end up doing with that is I would end up putting that out on loan to the RMC Cave Museum up in Stroud. As a piece where everyone could see it and operate it, and that's what I think I want to do with quite a few of these machines, because I've given a few machines to Neil in the past. He's got an SE. I believe I've given him an SE30 as well. Again, the SE I gave him broken with a reloaded board for him to do Trash to Treasure on, whatever. And obviously we did the 2-part Octane series as well. So he's got
that's right
as well. I think of, like a few of them, because while there's a massive array of machines up there, there'll be things coming in and out of inventory, and
that's the place to show off and exhibit them, where people can play around with them and get their hands on them. Because I say this all the time, like, what good is it doing on my shelf collecting dust?
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm going to take it off, I'm going to play with it, I'm going to do this, that. But if I have 2 of them, or if I have 3 of them, like, why do I need, like, let me give that to someone who's going to enjoy it, and then I get something else, to play with,
And I can't think of anything,
or loan it,
I can't think of anything more fun than playing SimCity 2000 on a classic Mac, because that's actually the first place I played it. I played it on Mac before I ever played it on a PC. It was one kid at school whose dad was rich enough to buy an LC475 for his kid, not just for him, for his kid as well. And this is like brand new, like out the box. Like, he brought it to school in the box and unboxed it in front of all of us. And he was the didn't like him as a person. He went to become involved in local politics and became even more insufferable. He had SimCity 2000 on that machine, and that was just like the homework hour wasting. Like, you doing your homework? Yeah. Yeah, totally using it. Because whenever he wasn't using it, he was like, "Oh yeah, you peasants may use the machine as well." Yeah. He annoyed me once, so I deleted the system folder. Just the system folder. Everything else was on there. All you needed was just like the install floppy to be able to drag it back on there. But no, I just deleted the system folder just because he was irritating me.
Note to self: never irritate Kai.
Oh no. I know how to damage things.
Yes, Steven, you connect the capacitor next to that. That's the way to do it. Boom.
Just to test that, like, some of the CDs that I burned off Macintosh Garden were working okay. Because I'd never really done it before, and especially not when you're downloading an image on a PC and burning it and making sure it works in a Mac CD drive. And one of those games was SimCity 2000, and I've got a Power Macintosh 7500.
Great!
G3. I've got it. I already upgraded it to like a G3 333 and just pimped it to the max.
You action retroed the hell out of that machine.
I did. Yes. Yeah. I just no, it's what is it going to be? And I'm just like, roll up the glove, everything. You just pile it all inside. Just to test it worked. I was like, I can't fire up a game of SimCity 2000 on this. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon. Lou comes home from work, and I'm still sitting there trying to. They're complaining about lack of power. I need to find where I can put a power plant here somewhere. And it was like hours and hours and hours later. And it's just the sort of thing that's a perfect time sink. Funds. Yeah. So
that was me. I had a connecting flight. We were on vacation in Japan in 2015, and we couldn't afford the one-way ticket, the direct ticket. So we had a layover in Hong Kong, and it was like hours, just sitting there. So I had my laptop, which is actually here. It's an older ThinkPad, but it's like an i7 and has a touch screen, and it's not too bad. But I have Roller Coaster Tycoon on there, and so I just opened that up, and I'm like, well, let's just play with some roller coasters for a while. And it's very like much a SimCity-esque game. And I blinked, and it was like, they're boarding your flight. I'm like, that was 2.5 hours already.
It doesn't take long. That's the perfect example of how, just because a machine is old, it's still got some really fun games on it that you remember, and even if you never played them before, they're easy to get into.
So I will say, the one thing I would love is if just the board of a Quadra 840 AV would materialize on my desk. What would you be after if something were to just materialize out of the sky? Something that is silly hard to find these days.
I was going to say the Quadra 660 AV, but somebody just sent me one of those. Just the board, not the whole machine. It was just the board for it. And actually, I think it was Adrian Black as well. He sent me a 660 AV
oh.
that doesn't work. So I'm gonna.
I tried messaging him because he has. I think he had a quad. Whatever he had, he took out the. I'm sorry for a tangent. We'll get back to you in a second. He took out the processor from this Mac that was a full 040, and he put in an LC 040 because something was wrong with the processor for whatever his reason. This was a few years ago. And then he got an error, and that error translated to basically, hey, where the heck is the FPU? So I tried to get in touch with them on Twitter or whatever, being like, it's looking for an FPU. That model never shipped without an FPU. That's why it's upset. That's why you can't launch any program.
Yeah, the ROM is like, what the hell is going on here? Why does this not work? Yeah.
So I'm sorry, you said 660 AV.
So it would have been a 660 AV. And again, Zane Kaminsky has done his magic with that, so you can now get like double the VRAM on those machines and basically turn it into an 840. So things. The Centris 660 AV is the Centris machines are great because they're basically a quadra just with an LC in only some cases. So, I think for me it would probably be either a PowerBook 100 or a PowerBook G3 Wall Street 300, the Wall Street 2, the PDQ. Because I originally had a Wall Street 266 back in about 2001, 2002. It's through a series of trades. I traded my iMac DV SE for this Wall Street, which I then unfortunately traded it for a blue and white G3 Tower. And I regretted doing that, and I'm like, I want the Wall Street back. And I couldn't do that because the guy I traded it with was like, I don't like the condition of this Wall Street. I'm like, mate, I showed you literally everything about it. I told he was anyway. He just complained. So I said, I offered, look, I'll take the Wall Street back off your hands if you want. And I was like, no, I want the Wall Street. And it was like, so you just wanted to complain about it.
Oh, of course.
But I've always had a fondness for those machines because they were the last one with the rainbow-colored Apple logo. They had ADB and SCSI on the back, as well as PC cards. They also had the Rage 128 in them as well. They could run OS like 10.2, and they didn't have that translucent key. I didn't like the translucent keyboard on either the Lombard or the Pismo. I was never really a fan of either of those machines, and when they came out, I was like, I don't really like the white kind of like, ooh, look at us kind of. If that was the period where Apple was kind of going and trying to be more sort of professional and upmarket, and all the fun was getting sucked out.
Oh yeah.
Like Mick says there, the fact that the Wall Street also had a floppy drive in it.
That's right.
It was essentially a beige G3 in a notebook,
which was a great machine.
Yeah, it was an absolutely great machine. And the other one, like I said, the PowerBook 100, because essentially that was a Macintosh portable that had been done properly by people that kind of knew what they were doing with regards to miniaturization by handing it over to Sony. Sorry, can I just? Sorry, I just got this sign held up to me and some eyebrow wiggling. So obviously I've just gone, yes.
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 I need sustenance. Yeah.
Sustenance. I shouldn't need sustenance. I had 2 slices of pizza about an hour before I came onto the stream, and that was after I'd come back from the pub as well. And I'm like,
well, we have been going for 2 hours and 46 minutes. So if you want to wrap it up, you want to wrap it up within the next 15 minutes to go eat your food, that's fine.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just gonna deliver and just let's see, what do I want on it? Oh, no.
Let the chat decide for you.
So everybody, am I having tomatoes, lettuce, fresh onions, grilled mushrooms, pickles, jalapeno peppers, green peppers, relish, ketchup, mayo, barbecue sauce, HP, hot sauce, or mustard, or just yes? Well,
you decide that. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. I'll be right back. But
okay,
decide your burger. Decide Kai's burger toppings is the subject I will leave you with. I'm sorry, Kai.
No, that's fine. I'm being left at the mercy of everybody here. So
there you go.
Okay, so I like how Kristen, you are very, very specific by saying 300 grams of meat. I mean, what if it's 297? Do I kick off? The burger with everything. Vote, place bets now. All I'm thinking of now is the in the UK there was a TV show called Banzai about. Okay, this is going to show my age now. 22 years ago. Yeah, with Mr. Shake Hands Man. They'd be placing bets on all sorts of random stuff. Okay, I'm going to go for mustard ketchup. Ooh, do I get jalapeno peppers? Actually, I think I might. I might go for grilled onions. Gonna get shake.
If you want.
Don't skip. I love how Dave says don't skip. I'm not the one ordering this. Jeez. I like that. Alex just said, Kai should just yes for all of the ingredients. Okay. That's a shakes. Oh, Five Guys shake. Ooh. Reese's peanut butter cup shake. I just made you get out of bed because now you're hungry. I have this effect with my brother. Whenever my brother and I get on like a Zoom call, we inevitably end up talking about food. And he tells me what he's going to be making that evening, and I tell him what I've made that evening. I make him hungry. He ends the call, and then the next time I speak to him, he's like, "Oh, you bastard! I ended up eating everything inside." Next time I speak to him. Right, I'm going to go for... Oh. That's annoying. They've taken coffee off as an option. A Reese's shake is a meal in itself. Yes, it does also count as dessert. I'm going to go for... Oh, salted caramel and peanut butter mixed with malt. Sorry. I just got that. I love it. Anything better than a milkshake is two milkshakes. Is that because it brings all of the boys to the yard? Can't wait to see what the response for that one will be. What are the number one burger places near you? Ooh, okay. I would say number one burger place. So Five Guys is down at the Marina, which is where we're ordering from this evening. The thing is, they're the only one that's really worth ordering from. We have a few others, like there's Shake Shack and who are the other ones? Oh yeah, V Burger is another one. So V Burger. There is Mick says, Thank you for helping make this possible, sign writer. What country am I in? I'm in the UK. So yeah. We have a lot of choice for stuff. I'm not really overly bothered for burgers most of the time. So I know I look chunky. I don't tend to eat like too many burgers. I eat too much other unhealthy stuff instead. What county? Oh, East Sussex, so Brighton. So yeah, as I was saying, so V Burger is a place. It's a vegan burger place. And they use Beyond Burgers in all of their stuff. And actually, some of them are pretty nice. Quite like them. And they do nice things like tater tots and sweet potato fries and stuff. So, yeah, so I've had one or two of those. But generally, like when it comes to sort of takeaway food, I can't beat Persian. There's a place in town called Shiraz Persian, and they are responsible for kind of getting me hooked on baba ganoush, which is delicious to eat and also hilarious to say. And yes, Justin, Five Guys has been over in the UK since, I think, 2011 they first came over. And most major towns and cities have a Five Guys either in it or near to it. But yeah, we do have, I mean, Five Guys is just an option. I mean, if I was to open up, say, Deliveroo or something like that, I would generally not pick burger. Pizza occasionally, but there's a better pizza place in town where they don't do delivery. You have to go and collect them yourselves. Or it'd be Indian, obviously, because we stole everything from India until 1947, so we like our Indian food. Not us personally, we didn't steal everything from India until 1947. The country as a whole. Yes, Arthur. No, that's. I will say, actually, the first ever time I had a Beyond Burger, if nobody had told me that was vegan beforehand, I would have had a very tough time figuring that out. It's got the texture right, the taste is almost there. Quite happy to have those on a barbecue. The Beyond sausage was okay, but not amazing. I've had better ones out there. You've just had eggs and bacon. How have you had eggs and bacon? Did you have the bacon in the eggs in a form of an omelette? Did you have bacon as a side? Was there toast involved? Plum tomatoes, grilled mushrooms, hash brown, cheese, black pudding, beans, anything? No? Unlimited naan. Oh, that would be difficult, I think. Unlimited naan. I like naan, but there are only two that two is keema naan or garlic and cheese naan. But even then, I could barely manage a whole naan. I couldn't do unlimited. Oh, any favourites from the Cyprus trip? Oh, okay. Yes. I've fallen in love with Lucanico and Shiftalia. So if no one has ever sort of been aware of sort of Cypriot cuisine, think like souvlaki skewers, think salad, rice, pita bread, hummus, tzatziki, and then Lucanico sausage, which is like specific to Cyprus, and then Shiftalia, which is again specific to Cyprus, and everything was so cheap there. I think it was like for two people for starters, mains, drinks, like worked out to like €27. It was ridiculously cheap.
Somebody wanted attention, so I had to divert myself.
Money.
It's her holiday after all. It's Easter in the U.S. So
yeah. So Steve
is not thrilled, but
it was like, "What are you doing? What are you holding me? Why am I out?
Why am I out?"
I will say I got this message passed to me as well.
Uh-oh. Please continue. Well, I just was talking to my wife upstairs about what we'll have for dinner too. So I think we'll have a mutual lunch that will be or a meal time that will commemorate the end of our chat eventually. But
I like how you say eventually, like I'm somehow the one in control for how long this goes on for. You can say if you want to go, it's fine.
She's in control. That's she right here. That you silly bun. Yeah.
She looks very relaxed there.
Yeah, she is either very angry at me or very comfortable, and I don't think it's the latter.
It's only a binary decision. There's nothing in between.
Yeah, she doesn't really like being picked up, but she will tolerate it when you're doing certain things. But yeah, I'll put you back with your sister.
I like Joe's comment of "Where's the holy hand grenade?"
What, the rabbit?
Right, one rabbit stew coming right up.
Yeah.
It's got big pointy teeth. I love that film.
Let me put her back, and then we'll continue.
I do remember many years ago watching when Monty Python and the Holy Grail came out on DVD. There was a DVD extra, which was a Lego recreation of the Knights of the Round Table scene. When my friend and I watched it, and bearing in mind we were very drunk and at least 3/4 of a bottle of single malt scotch, we laughed so hard things nearly burst. Still makes me kind of giggle just thinking about it as well.
Oh yes, that was a good one. That was hilarious. With the part that always gets me is the skeleton just going.
Yeah, just in the basement, we dance around table, we dance whenever able.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay. So I will put a proverbial cap on this for, let's say, 20, 30-ish minutes. So
Okay, no, that's good. That's good.
We can continue. We'll get all our giggles out and talk about fun things. But so Joe actually says that System 6 has Easter eggs referencing the Holy Grail. I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
Can you go into details, Joe?
Tell us. We must know.
We must know. We'll pop open an emulator and figure this out now. You know?
Quick, fire up Basilisk.
Yeah. Now, that's a good topic to discuss, because I was curious. Obviously, the hardware is all fun and good, but is there a particular emulator that you fire up, or you really just try and
Basilisk
do things on hard Basilisk 2? You prefer
Basilisk 2. Just I like the fact that it's actually loading in from an actual ROM dump of a machine, and it's working with the toolbox routines in ROM. Rather than just trying to emulate functions and functionality, I know like Mini VMac does with a Macintosh Plus. And I also like the fact that with Basilisk 2, you can make system images for your Blue SCSI. Or for your RAR SCSI as well. You can just go, okay, well, there you go. That's my hard drive file. Rename it.
And that's what I think is so cool about the RAR SCSI and the Blue SCSI, is like with the SCSI 2SD, you had to format it a certain way, and you pretty much had to have another boot system disk or whatever to get it like formatted a special way. And the Blue SCSI, it's just an image. You just, and then you could edit that. And what it's so great is, like, I back stuff up on the Blue SCSI, and now I just drag it over to my Mac and I copy the image. It's like, oh, done,
I think there is one thing that I did have an idea for, whether or not it's something I do or something somebody else wants to do, is for certain Blue SCSI images to be hosted on a thread or a resource on TinkerDifferent. So people can just go, oh, I've got this machine, I've got a Blue SCSI. They don't necessarily want to have to worry about figuring out how to get Basilisk 2 up and running, getting the ROM file, and that can be a bit of a rigmarole. So just to be able to host some, like, here you go, is a fresh install of System 6 or System 7 or System 7.1, 7.5, 7.6, etc. We give them, just pop up the HDA image files for those, like, somewhere. I know that there's some image files in existence for the RAR SCSI, which you can take and just rename so that they work on the Blue SCSI.
I think those are on Macintosh Garden. Yeah, here we have. So, yeah. I'm going to share the screen here, so you don't have to look. There we go. So these are. Let's see. We have Bootstrap. We have 608, 701, 7538, and a bunch of others. Now, what's really cool. Eric, I don't know if Eric's still in the chat here. He was a few hours ago, but that was a few hours ago. There's a tool that was made by someone else, and I know Eric is working on a similar tool that basically there's a web little GUI thing that you could load up, and you can basically say, oh, by the way, I want System 7, I want this loaded, I want that loaded, and you get all of that like downloaded into an image file. So it like sort of on the fly builds it or selects from a set of things.
Pulls in the links from elsewhere and compiles it into an image. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna share. I shared the wrong thing here, so let me see if I could find that. But I think that was sort of like a in development thing. I'm not sure if it's like 100% done yet. But I thought that was so cool, because how many times do you have an image, but it's like, oh wait, but I need this system enabler, or I need that, or whatever. Or I need one that doesn't have the Lido driver because it's going to be slower on real hardware, or whatever the heck, you know. So I'm actually doing a search, doing a web search.
To answer Macintosh Librarian's question, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because a lot of the Apple classic OSs end up actually being posted originally on Apple's own FTP site for free download. And
I think 753 has been on there since I was a boy. So
yeah,
lad.
I think the only ones you might, you technically can't. I think it's 7.1, because that's not free. 7 is, 6.08 is, and all of the other previous ones, they're all free. But yeah, 7.1 isn't, 7.6 isn't. But I think even at this point, I doubt very much they would really get that bent out of shape. The fact that you're sharing an OS from nearly 40 years ago.
Yeah, I think that is sort of a very edge case. I do think that given the opportunity, yes, I think Apple will defend their ROMs and all that stuff, but I don't think they're going to go look at something and be like, oh, yes, that's no System 608. You can't have that. We're still using that,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, any classic Mac OS is pretty much abandonware. So I would guess a lot of some countries like the UK do have actually, some laws surrounding things like abandonware,
which is nice.
Whereas, if the publisher has not made any efforts to republish it, or hasn't been in production for X amount of years or whatever, then there can't be the reasonable expectation of people not essentially pirating it or making copies of it or using it in any other way.
Yeah, and look, let's be honest. None of us want to, break whatever laws that are out there for this stuff. We're trying to use these machines and keep them out of landfills. None of us are like so looking at it from that perspective. And I think 90% of the people at a company like Apple are going to be like, yeah, who cares? Like, just do whatever. We don't care. And then you're going to get like the one person in the legal department who will, have a stick up their rear. But
yeah, and that's the other good point as well. We're not selling the pre-made images; we're just offering them freely. So again, we're taking something that was already released for free by Apple on their own FTP before they shut that all down.
Yeah.
Of which the mirrors still exist and still exist on archive.org as well. You can take the stuff and repackage it any way you want, and you're not selling it. So
yeah,
I don't see the issue with it.
And I think you would run into more problems not by Apple directly, but by the legal entities that they've hired, and then the arms of those legal entities that they've hired to do auto searches for things and whatever. Now, this is something that came up during Macintosh, which is really cool. So this is called Disk Jockey, and this is similar to what we were talking about before of making disk images. So this was posted on Twitter, and you could find it at, I'll put the link in the chat here. There we go. And so essentially, you designate the size of the image, and then you have these configurations that you could select. So there's one here that says, I want a compact Mac. That's a Mac Classic. I want the disk size to be this. And then you could say, well, I want to use it with the blue SCSI, or I want to use it with this or that. And this runs on versions of the Mac OS, so modern versions of the Mac OS. I know that there are similar projects with a similar goal. Eric is in the chat now, so maybe he could share some details of that if something like this is publicly available yet. I know there was a discussion on one of the podcasts or shows that Eric was in about a similar tool for doing web-based creation of blue SCSI images and such. But I think a tool like this is really cool because it just sets the bar so low of somebody coming in and being like, well, I need a disk image to run the Mac OS and I need it to be for this machine. It takes all the guesswork out of it, which I think is great.
That is insanely cool, and another really good illustration of just how much cool stuff comes out of events like Macintosh.
Yeah,
it's one of again, it's that sort of illustration of the point of like if you're thinking, wouldn't this be cool? I wonder if somebody will. There we go. That's a perfect example of somebody like thinking that, oh, hey, I wish a tool existed for this, and they've gone out and they've built it.
Exactly. And that stuff, like, you don't need unlimited funds or anything anymore. You'd buy a $25 assemble it yourself kit or a $55 pre-built kit for the blue SCSI. You buy a cheap OSD card and you download the image to it, and you got your Mac Classic up and running again. There you go. I mean, it's awesome. I love it.
Sorry, I had to kind of throw in the sexy eyebrow wiggle there because obviously, blue SCSI F4.
I'm like going to grab things on the desk here, and I'm like, wait, which? I have both of them. Let me just hang up.
You have all of the blue scuzzies.
Yeah, all the blue scuzzies. I think that is just like one of the. I guess it's like one of the newer tools that are out there, one of the newer things. But I don't know. I've just fallen in love with the blue scuzzy. It's so easy to implement, and I love that they're implementing functionality where you could set the disk image like a set of them. So like on the device itself, you could be like, well, I want to load image set 2. So you have to put the SD card in there, rename the file or whatever, and then no, there's going to be support where you can do that via the hardware, which I think is really cool. So that's it's nice to see this stuff evolving. It's not static. This stuff is going to be living on and on and on, and there will be a lot of enthusiast people like us using it, and then a lot of people who are just like, I just want to play Shuffle Puck Cafe. That's all I care about.
Yeah, give me an LC475, full 040, 32 meg sim in it, and like I'm quite happy with SimCity 2000 and trying to play Wolfenstein 3D at 3 frames per second.
That's a bit of a.
Sorry, is that a bit of a dig there at the Mac port of it? I know I did actually have a dig at the ports for both Doom and Wolfenstein 3D on JDW's Spicier Clock video that's went out about a week ago or so. I'm so surprised they can make Doom run on a pregnancy test at like really good frame rate, and yet they can't do it with a full-fledged Macintosh desktop. Why has no one done a port yet? What is there something? I mean, the source code's available. What's stopping somebody from doing it? I've seen somebody do again. It was a Doom port for the Amiga, the original A500, which is 68,000 running at 7.83 megahertz, and using actually stripping, like redoing it like an engine for Doom from scratch, and so to make it run, and it's running at like 30 frames per second on a 7 megahertz 68K. Like, if you can do that, why can't somebody make a version of Doom that doesn't run like crap?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me. I had I still have the Color Classic, but it was a non-Mystic Color Classic. So it's a standard Color Classic spinning hard disk. I brought it into high school one day, and I installed Doom on it. And I thought, I'll be able to play Doom in school. This will be fun. Yeah, it was like a slideshow of a slideshow, and I thought there was something wrong with the machine because I didn't know the tech specs of these things. I got the Classic, I think, for $40 at a yard sale that was selling mostly PC stuff, and it was just like, oh, this runs terrible.
It's awful. But if you look at Dark Forces, which uses this pretty much the same engine, it runs better. Not great, but better.
But considerably better. And
considerably better.
Yeah, Dark Forces. That's a fun one.
Oh, I wasted many hours because when that came out, I was at boarding school, and the only laptop that was available, funnily enough, the flat lord who lives in the room next door, he had a 4860X4 100 like a Panasonic Toughbook at a time where those were expensive. We're talking like 1994, 1995, and this was like, again, top of the line, had everything with it. Like, Grandma, you're going to use it for schoolwork, aren't you? Yes, Grandma. And that's, I'm playing Dark Forces and essentially passing it round. Like, we'd each do like a level each. So there's 4 of us in a boarding school room with the lights out and the sound down, so as not to like attract any attention from like house parents or, the people that making sure that we're supposed to be asleep at like 10:30 at night, and we're both doing levels, and the amount of time somebody would die and they would just audibly swear, and it was like, quick, shut the thing down, hide the laptop, stick it under the bed. We're all sleeping in here. You may go. And then
nothing happening in here.
Nothing happening in here. And we ended up with one particular situation where we caused enough noise to draw somebody down there. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough time for the person in question to get into bed, so they hid in the wardrobe badly to the point where their feet are poking out of the bottom. The doors aren't even fully closed. And they knocked on the door. Julian, will you get out of that wardrobe? He just replied with, There is no one here. I am a figment of your imagination.
The things you would get away with.
But that's the thing. He took the brunt and getting told off and getting like shouted at and all the rest of it just long enough that we could just, laptop's going under the pillow. And then cue an hour later, again, we're doing Levels of Dark Forces again.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
And all things DG. No, I'm not supposed to be a Tory now at all. It was a very counterculture thing. I went to a place called St. Christopher's School in Letchworth, sort of place where no one wore uniforms and you called staff by their first names. And it was that. There's a lot of dangerous and random things I could go into. That's cool. But yeah, so yeah, not that kind of school. That's fine. I know that British boarding schools have a certain reputation in movies as well. So yeah,
I think a lot of shenanigans go on in schools. I mean, the only one that really stays in my mind were two incidents at the same school in the same class. So in my high school, I was part of a commercial arts, graphic arts class. And so they had a bunch of Pentium 2 PCs. And at the end of the year, there was not much to do. And all of our work had been completed. We already been given our grades. And it was like the last week, we were all just killing time, essentially. And all the PCs were running Windows 98 2nd edition. They had a shared network drive on it, but anything that you would save to the system, it had Deep Freeze, I think was the name of the software.
We talked about this last stream. Exactly. I remember this. Yeah.
Okay. And so we played Quake 2 demo on it, and the little Ethernet cards were solid activity light, and the network admin was just PO'd walking around the building trying to find out what was going on. Yeah,
Unreal Tournament in a networked print spool directory was great because it wouldn't be stored on any machine. It was just installed in the ether somewhere, and you would just like link to it, download it onto your machine.
And this was when USB flash drives were still quite expensive. But if you had somebody who would be able to order it online, you could get a 32 meg one or a 128 meg one if you were really pinching. You could get for a few dollars more or whatever. And so I had like a little 32 meg keychain that had like, I think an iCloud connection utility for Windows for .Mac back in the day. So I could access my iDisk and then some other utilities or whatever on there. But I thought I was so cool with this like USB flash drive. And before that, it was a floppy I carried around my backpack,
For us, it was zip disks.
Yes. Well,
stacks of zip disks and jazz drives.
Before I got the USB, I had the USB zip drive, and the only reason I wasn't allowed to take it in anymore was my mother's zip drive. It had a little pouch that said iOmega on it, and one day I accidentally left it in class because you're a kid and you're an idiot. And they had night school afterwards, so like these people would come in, they use the machines. Thankfully, the teacher noticed it and put it away. And then the next morning, I got yelled at, and they said, "Take this home. Don't bring this in anymore," because if I would have left it there in the night school class, probably would have taken it or whatever. But so
I was thinking somebody might have doodled on it or something, and I was like, "What is this on the case? What does this doodle mean?"
Yeah,
explaining high school level doodles to parents.
Oh yes, no. Yes. Oh gosh. So what did you have? Like in later schools, like a high school or whatever the equivalent is, where you would be. Did they have like an array of computers that were accessible to you, or I'm just curious of like the types of machines?
I was actually very lucky. Most English schools at the time, they had like a computer or maybe two computers. So the computing landscape, at least with education in the early to mid 90s, was that up until about 1994, 1995, most school computers were Acorn machines.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they were, obviously they still had the BBC Model Bs still working in classrooms because the educational software just didn't change, much like the Apple IIs were in the States. So we went BBC Model Bs and Masters all the way through to the Archimedes line. And there was a whole thing of the time where you'd go grocery shopping and you'd get coupons to be able to give to your school, and they could redeem them and they could get money off for the purchase of a computer.
Oh, okay.
So like, your school could get a computer with a monitor, and that would be like, wow, that was the school computer. And when I went to to the school I ended up going to, I was very lucky because it was at least well funded and private education, that they had a whole computer network, not just a computer room. They had 2 different separate computer rooms, one in the senior school for people aged like 11 all the way through to 18, and one for the junior school. So that was kids from 5 to 10 years old. And they were both on their own individual I think it was token ring 10-base-2 networks.
Oh, cool.
So the amount of times people would disrupt their network just by unscrewing the network terminator in the computer room portal cabin. Those things. Oh, I don't miss 10-base-2 networking at all. But we had an array of like 186s and 486 like PCs. We had in the art department 1 Macintosh. That was it. 1 single Macintosh, and that's the thing, because the computer companies which came after Acorn in the education space had basically just tied up all schools to a Windows environment, and Mac was just left out in the cold of like, oh no, you don't want a Macintosh. You could get 3 machines for the price of 1 Mac, and think how many more kids you could educate. And of course, when you're swinging headmasters' budgets around, that's the first thing they think of. So
yeah. Christian makes an interesting point here. They had a shared 20 megabyte drive on a network server for the entire school.
I can believe that. When my user account was first created at school in 1993, we had 1 megabyte of usable user space for documents. And again, we were told, oh, you shouldn't need anything more than that for doing homework and stuff. And by the time I left in 2000. The network account shares were 200 to 250 megabytes per user account. So a bit of bloat there.
Of course. Well, as we near the end of our chat here, I want to give you ample time to talk about things you may be working on now, or things you want to plug, websites, etc. Give you ample time to ease into that. I know you're a busy man. I'm a man of many talents.
And again, all dubious. I love how definitive you've been there. So obviously, if anybody's not on TinkerDifferent, get on it. Seriously, what are you waiting for? Also, just to reiterate the point that TinkerDifferent isn't just for people who like Macs, and it's not just for Apple-related machines as well. We've had a couple of posts lately on Atari STs, for example. And we do have Commodore section, we have Sinclair section with 3D printing. I'm about to post something up on clearing fault codes from BMWs. Again, not computer related at all. So go to TinkerDifferent if you're not already. It is a fun place to hang out. We do also have a Discord server as well. The details are available.
That's true.
And we've what's actually sort of surprised me about the Discord server is the amount of people that are actually there. We've got a good 200 people having a chat. So it's fairly active as well. And we've got sections for Mac, PC, Atari, Commodore, Acorn, Sinclair, MSX, workstations, and obviously just various general channels such as food. And if you're working on any software, or if you're just saying hello, or if you want to have a rant about something in the tech space that annoys you. There's a lot of topics. I know we can't cover them all. So obviously, TinkerDifferent is the main one. The other one is obviously I would like to be doing some more reverse engineering projects, and obviously I'm on the lookout for aforementioned battery bombed boards or machines that there's no chance of patching to get them working again. But hey, if you want to send me a logic board, regardless of even if it's missing all of its chips, send it my way. I can image it, and then we can get a reloaded project going. Whether or not that's useful for people down the road later on, whether it's for building their own machines, it might be dubious. However, one thing that is always very useful of a sprint layout file is that you can use the inbuilt test functionality. So you can click on a pin of one particular component, and then you can see exactly where it's supposed to go and what it's supposed to
How
link
cool
to.
would that be to like troubleshoot like an 840 AV where you're like, oh, is this supposed to be beeping here? Oh, now I know the answer without, chewing Bruce's ear off for 3 hours straight,
So, well, one of the things I would like to, like put out almost like an APB for is a site called, there's a site out there called AmigaPCB.org. And just as an example, you can select any Commodore Commodore Amiga machine on there, and it will load in the PCB file for it, and then you can just have it in a browser, able to just see the pinouts of everything and how how you're tracing faults, for example. So if we could get something like that going for the Macs, that would be great. I know, Francois, cool. You're working on an open like an open board view. I would love to be able to do something like this, for a Mac.
So I would just select a model here, and I see how it is. Oh, cool. Yeah, even also just like all the accessories, like NuBus video cards and stuff like that. Even if it's has the components on there, an image is great because sometimes you're trying to identify something, or you get something and a capacitor has fallen off or whatever, and you're just trying to determine all the other things. That's a great idea. Yeah,
great tool. So whether or not somebody wants to take on board a software project like that, I know, Francois, you fancy taking that on as well. I'm pretty sure that things like the source code for the PCB Explorer are actually available from the site.
This is really neat.
There's documentation, but again, so you can click on any one of those pins there. Just select any one of those pins.
I see. Oh, that's It shows the little dotted line in red. Yep. It's a little hard to see here, but that's neat.
Yeah, it shows you exactly where stuff goes as well. On the name of it's showing you the name of the net list as well. So it shows you, okay, that pin's ground, that pin's ground. Go to something on on an actual chip on the top side of the board, and it'll probably tell you whether it's an address line or a data line, and exactly where it goes as well. So you can you don't have to worry about knuckling down with a magnifying glass, for example, and trying to figure out which trace is broken. Just like, that's right, it's that one there.
Well, that's cool. So that's a good call to action there if anyone is interested in doing something like that.
If anybody's got any dead PCBs, any dead logic boards, or even if it's just like something like an HPV card or a NuBus card, something like that, just ping me a message on TinkerDifferent or on the Discord and say, hey, I've got this board. I will take it off your hands. I'll even buy it from you. I will pay the postage, to me, so that you're not left out of pocket from sending me, just a PCB. I mean, it's.
Do you have any particular ones? You mentioned the 2SI, the 2SI
and 2CI are the ones currently because Max has done the Reloaded for the LC, the LC2, the LC3, and obviously the 2CX, and he's done the Plus. I've done the Classic and the SD.
And obviously any resources that you gather, you share amongst the community, so it's not like Max has scans that he doesn't share with you.
No, exactly. So for example, Max has actually posted from his reverse engineering and his Reloaded board. He's posted up the schematics of the entire machine in a brand new readable KiCad format that anyone can open up. Again, it's not just the sprint layout files; it's the full schematics of the machine are made available.
That's really neat. Wow. So yes, you can get in touch with Kai on TinkerDifferent. That's a great way to get in touch with him, and you have to register for it anyway because it's an awesome site. So be sure you do that.
Exactly. There goes the twofer.
So anything else you want to plug as far as projects or things like that? Or anything else?
Just as I mentioned, the Blue SCSI F4. These will be for sale soon, and I say that with an undetermined date because I'm waiting on more stock of the black pills to come in to be able to build up some more.
And would that be linked eventually on bluescuzzy.com? There would be
that will hopefully be added on there, as well
Great.
as I'll post it up on TinkerDifferent with a link to the Tindy store directly as well at the time.
Excellent. Yeah, TinkerDifferent is where all of us sort of commune. So there's a lot of stuff that will end up on there that links to other places as well. So if you're not on there, be sure to get on there.
Yeah, and just to say to anybody else as well, if you want to get involved in any particular project, or if you're like, say you like the look of like, oh hey, I think this Reloaded project is cool. How can I get involved? I can easily give you like some homework or something. And yes, a 2SI. Yes, please send me 2SI logic boards. Just even if they're completely battery bombed, I can do something with them. Even if it's only imaging the rear layer or the internals or something. If I get another one where the back's gone but the front's okay, you can piece them all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I sincerely appreciate your time. 3 hours and 30 minutes went by like that.
Yes. I don't know if we broke our previous record, but
I'm afraid to look. I'm Googling that as I come here. Let's see. We previously on the other one, it was
probably like 3 hours 43 or something.
Episode 5 that we had. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was 3 hours and 34 minutes. Oh, okay. So we don't have to beat the records. We're not we've got nothing to prove. People come here and like talk to us, but that's we set a standard there, and we both have to eat eventually. So
exactly. I've got a burger coming.
There you go. See, I have food waiting for me upstairs. So there we go. But thank you, Kai, so much for hanging out. We'll have to do this again, obviously. I know we were talking about a potential project for the Mac ROMs for the Macintosh 2 board, and now that I have unlost my my caliper here, I could do some measuring. So
yes. Oh, Steve? Did you need an adapter for the IWM to swim? Because I can't remember if that Mac 2 that you've got, it doesn't have the swim floppy controller.
Yeah, it I'll have to. I have a photo. I think I sent you a photo of that. I'd have to dig through the photo I sent you. I know it had a chip in there, but I think it was the 800K, if that's what you're referring to.
Because I can easily build an adapter for that. Now I know the pin outs of both chips.
Well, then you're in no rush to send whatever you're sending. I will gladly wait.
Well, no, I'm in a rush to send this because I desperately need space in my flat. You're getting this whether you like it or not. I'm not waiting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will bend to your wishes.
Okay. Okay. You're going to get one of these, and obviously the Reloaded boards.
After the 3 hours and 30-minute mark, we just get silly. So
yeah. There we go. We just got rolled over 3 hours and 30 minutes. So.
There we go. Oh, yes, but we'll be in touch, I'm sure. But anyone, if you are not familiar with Kai's work, please go to TinkerDifferent.com. It's easy to find him. His name is Kai Robinson, and all your questions of what he is, who he is, and why he is are there.
There can be only one.
There can be only one. And that is why I am so happy to talk to you, because whenever we talk like this, like all the ideas are just oozing out of my head of all these cool projects, and everyone in the chat is inspired as well. And that's what I really like to see.
And that's what we like, is more cool projects and giving people ideas, whether people are giving me ideas or whether I'm giving other people ideas.
Exactly. So that's the way it is, and I'm so excited to have that as part of this. So thank you so much, Kai, and we're gonna go tinker off by eating, and then
yes,
and then we'll have energy for other projects. So. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kai. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to our Open Talk here. This was episode number 9. And this was recorded on April 17th, 2022. And we'll see you all later. Bye.